Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April 20th, 2023 meeting of the Mount Juliet Municipal and Regional Planning Commission meeting. As we begin tonight, always wonderful and blessed to see a full house. If you got one of those fun little cell phones in your pocket, which probably every one of us do, just be mindful. Make sure you stun it, put it on vibrate, turn it off, or whichever way. Just as a reminder as we get going this evening. As we open our meeting, prior to setting our agenda, wanted to make a few announcements and a few welcome aboards as well. Like to welcome aboard 3 new Planning Commission members tonight. I'd like to introduce Preston George down here on the at the end. We'll get name tags and everything else out for you guys, but welcome to the Mount Juliet Planning Commission. I'd also like to welcome Gerard Bullock, another new member to our Planning Commission. And obviously, welcome our City Mayor, Mayor Manis, as a member of our Planning Commission as well. So having 3 new members tonight, always great is a new thing. My daddy used to say one of the things that always stuck with me, remember the only thing that constant is change. And that seems to be proven true is one of Dad's lessons that he shared with me years ago. With that being said, welcome aboard. And one of the things that staff did include in our package this month was our Planning Commission bylaws. As such, you'll hear me in just a minute with as we set our agenda. We do have elections tonight. I have read our bylaws, would strongly encourage everybody to read through the bylaws of the Planning Commission. It's sort of what governs us and lays out our responsibilities as members of the Planning Commission, our intent, purpose, and just why we're here. So it is a very good document to read and encourage everyone to do so. With that being said, we'll move forward with our first item on our agenda. That is to set our agenda. I am only aware of 2 additions that I'd like to add to the back of our agenda with no objection. The first item I'd like to add will be known as item 6.1. It is to elect it's the Planning Commission chairperson. And we'll also add item 6.2, which is to elect the Planning Commission vice chairperson. Outside of that, I'm not aware of any changes or amendments to the agenda. We'll set the agenda as stated. Next item up on our agenda will be our staff reports. We'll begin with our planning director, Ms. Hamlin.
Once again, you took half my report. Yes. I did want to welcome you guys, our new members, and if you get an opportunity to read over our bylaws and for our existing current members, it's a good refresher. I put a training opportunity for you guys, Intro to Planning, which it goes over a refresher on basic functions of the planning and zoning boards, the duties and responsibilities of elected and appointed officials who serve on these boards, and an overview of the planning process. If you guys are interested in attending that, just let us know and we'll get you signed up for it. It seems like a pretty interesting class. With that said, I have already set our PC training, which will include the 4 hours that you guys are required to have on September the 27th. And it's important for you to write this down because I'm asking for 3 hours of your workday on this day. We have a gentleman coming in to go over Robert's Rules of Order, and also we're going to take a tour of the West Wilson Utility water treatment plant up in north of town. I thought that would be very interesting for you guys. So hoping to get you guys at the park about 2 o'clock that day to get to the training facility or the treatment plant at about 2:30. So that's September the 27th at 2 o'clock. I was hoping I'd give you guys enough notice for that. That's all I have. Thank you very much. This 2 hours is a Zoom meeting. Yes, sir. That's on May the 3rd from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. So that would count for 2 hours. In case somebody wasn't able to get off work, this would be a great opportunity if you weren't able to get off on the 27th for a few hours. Otherwise, Robert's Rules of Order will start about 5:30. Thank you.
Nothing directly. I do want to second the tour of the West Wilson water treatment plant that they have. It's fantastic for all of us. We drink water every day. We take it for granted, and you don't know really what goes into it. It's a very fine science that goes into it. And Freddie Weston, the general manager over there, which I'm sure several of you know, work very, very closely with him. He's got a fantastic operation over there. You could eat off the floor. It's so clean. So y'all would be really proud of it, going out and checking it out. So I know I geek out on that kind of stuff. Shane, you probably do too, but it's kind of our thing on that kind of stuff. But nothing else to report over there. Shane, you want to introduce Fraser there?
I'm going to hand the microphone off to our not new, but to our fire marshal. A lot of questions come up at these meetings, and having his presence here going forward is pretty important, we think.
Those that don't know me, I'm Brent Blaemeyers. I'm the fire marshal for the City of Mount Juliet Fire Department. Was put into the fire marshal position in last July. Extensive code knowledge I do possess, so I feel that fire should be a part of this for any questions that arise for any type of thing. Without me here, it's a little bit hard to answer questions, so I'll start trying to make these meetings more and more so we can answer questions on the fire side.
One question, Mr. Barlow. I always like to get your good updates on this. How are we looking on bringing a roundabout?
So progress is going along on there. I believe Comcast, if I'm thinking right, and I'll have to double check with Matt on that, but I believe we're still having some issues on that, getting them relocated. But I think progress is going pretty well. I think for now, if we can get the utility poles out of the way, or the pole, I think, out of the way, we're going to stay on track. So it'd be a shame if somebody ran into the pole and knocked it down. I'm sure it does. Yeah, exactly.
Just probably familiar with that. Wonderful. Thank you guys very much, and thank you for being here. That's going to be great information to have, and a great resource for us to have as well at the Planning Commission. This time I want to call for citizen comments. Any citizen is welcome and encouraged to make comment. There'll be two opportunities for you to make comments. You may speak now, or you may speak when the item is presented to the Planning Commission. We do ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes or less, and that way it gives everybody an opportunity to speak. What I do is I try to keep, especially when you got a full house like this, I try to keep a little timer up here to keep it right at 3 so that we can give everybody that does want to speak the opportunity. So as you're speaking, if you look up here at me and I just kind of wave at you like this, that means that you are sitting at 2 minutes right there. So if you can try to summarize your comments, focus your comments down, that you got about 1 minute left at that time. If you see me waving over there at you, if I do have a question, or if somebody has a question, we'll direct it to you at the completion of your comments. But if you see me wave my hand, if you can, please try to summarize your comments at that time, that you have 1 minute remaining. Always hate up here because we value and cherish the comments of our citizens to have to gavel anybody to stop them. So let's not do that, and just do ask for you to be mindful of that as you come up. So anyone wishing to make comment right now is welcome and encouraged to do so. And please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
I'm Dewey Lineberry. Address?
Please.
1840 South Mount Juliet Road,
Thank you.
where the stagecoaches are. I came to Mount Juliet. It was just a cornfield out here, 2 or 3 buildings. And I had a need for a warehouse, and I had like 150 salesmen run in and out with trucks. We weren't open to the public. And I built these buildings. I built a 3,000 foot building, and I built a 30,000 foot building. And it didn't have any bathrooms, no bathrooms. So then these 2 men came in and bought jeans from me, and they mentioned that A.H. Johnson was going to incorporate Belinda City. Scared me to death. I didn't even tell them I heard them, but I heard them say it. I went and got Wilson West, and they incorporated the city in 72. and to get bathrooms. People thought I wanted to be mayor. People thought I wanted to be councilman. I don't want to be nothing. I want to run my business. It's all I've ever done. Tell you that to tell you this, it changes. Mount Juliet changes. You come out here, there's a lot of land. Now it's tightening up. I'm for the apartments they want to build over next to Burger King. I'm for them because we need a place to live, and this side of town needs apartments. Is there all over the other side on Phil Smart's property? If you are against it, that's fine, but don't be so against it that you make them lose money, and then I end up buying them. And there you go. You know, it works for me to let you be, to not even tell you, and just say, well, you know, y'all make, not y'all, but other planning commissions before, they would make it hard on developers. Every shopping center I bought, somebody lost it. Nearly every building I bought, somebody calls me in the middle of the night. I got enough, but I'd like to see everybody progress. If you have, you can coexist with apartments, and see, if you want to change something, try to find a way to say yes, but make them build it nicer and beautiful. They can get 100 units on this. I think they've got a 100-foot entrance. They need 500 units or 300 units. But see, bend the rule a little bit and let them go. They got 70 acres. And it just, people against things, they can't stop it. You see, progress is coming. It's tax money for the government, and everything keeps building that way. It just works. Can't stop it. I don't know what else to say except find ways to say yes instead of ways to say no and help these people. I don't own any of it. I have no money in it at all. Nothing. I'm just trying to make it easier for someone else. Because I had it hard.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity. My name is Jim Fulbright. I own property on Polecat Road, map 49, parcel 20. I live in Goodlettsville, but the 28 acres that I have on Polecat Road, which is next to my daughter's rental property, another acre and a half, is something that I cherish very much. So I'd like to speak a little bit about the Traymore project since it's on the agenda tonight. I have two principal concerns: increased vehicle traffic and property security. With 349 new homes going in and an average of 2 cars per home, actually it's 2.2 in Tennessee, that's an additional 700 vehicles on the already overburdened 2-lane roads merging into the intersection of Lebanon Road and Bender's Ferry Road. Add to that vehicle traffic from other proposed developments on the west side of Bender's Ferry and the stretch below Mays Chapel. I'm not sure the name of that, but there are two developments going in there. And the gridlock at that intersection is increased even more to the point that it becomes not just a nuisance, but a safety issue for everyone in this area should ambulance or fire equipment need to get through. I can't help but believe that such an issue could create a major liability for the commission and the city. Consider too the gridlock existing now on Sundays with the activity at Joy's Church there on the corner, and add to that the upcoming summer recreational traffic to and from the lake. Simply put, the roads are not designed to carry such a large volume of traffic that is going in this area. Number two, I'm concerned about the security of my property from a concentration of so many people, about 1,000 more based on Tennessee's average of 3.3 people per home in what is now a fairly rural area. What will be done to prevent the curious from wandering onto the property of existing neighbors, especially those of us with secluded property? I'm concerned about vandalism and theft now, which has already occurred on my property. I only have 8 adjacent properties to me, let alone 349 new ones. Will this new development that you're planning be fenced in? Where's my security? It's difficult for me to see the planning and putting all these homes, people, and cars in a rural area with 2-lane roads that feed into an already overburdened intersection that can't even carry the existing traffic without long delays. This project is ill-conceived and poorly planned when it comes to the safety and security of those people already living there. Thank you.
Any additional citizen comments at this time? Wonderful. We'll move forward with our next item up on our agenda. It's known as item 2.1. It's the Planning Commission minutes approval from our regular meeting on March 16th, 2023. Any changes, amendments, typos, adjustments? Seeing none, looking for a motion in regards to this item on our agenda. Got a motion and a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? So approved. Next item up on our agenda is our consent agenda, which, by the way, is the shortest consent agenda I've seen in a long time. Our consent agenda is item 3.1. Item 3.1 is a sewer letter of credit number 165-146-8480-764 for Jackson Hills Phase 6. The amount of $82,792.50 can be released. Ms. Hamel? Mr. Barlow, anything you wish to add? Perfect. Questions or comments from the commission? This time I'd like to call for citizen comments in regards to any item on the on this item on the consent agenda. If anyone wishes to make comment in regards to this item, please come to the microphone and name and address for the record. Seeing no citizen comments this time, I'd like to have a motion in regards to this item on our agenda. Get a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? So approved. All right. Next item up on our agenda falls underneath the land use amendment annexation preliminary master development plan. I do want to make this comment right here due to a change, just to make sure everyone is aware of such. Land use plan amendment, positive vote is a recommendation item to the Board of Commissioners. Negative does not move an item forward unless a city commissioner brings it up for a vote, at a Board of Commissioners meeting. So just an item of clarification as we are on the land use. With that being said, our next item up is item 4.1, which is a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners. It is to review the land use plan amendment from medium density residential to low density residential for the Treemore PUD located at Bender's Ferry Road and Gay Winds Drive. And keep in mind, please, this is the land use plan amendment only. Should that continue to go through, there'll be a opportunity at 4.3 where we will discuss the preliminary master development plan, which speaks directly about the plan. So right now it is land use plan amendment only. I do want to make a comment real quick before I turn this over to staff. As I mentioned, as we opened up for citizen comments, your citizen comments are very valuable to us. Each one of the commissioners tonight, maybe these folks are here tonight, maybe they're not, but I just wanted to make note of it to let you know that your letters, if you send in a letter, you're unable to attend, each one of the commissioners has been provided a copy of a letter addressing this project, and your opinions have been heard. They have been read and they have been shared with us as members of the Planning Commission. So I just wanted you to know that we appreciate your comment and your feedback. So with that being said, I want to turn it over to Ms. Hamblin, please.
You typically don't see a land use plan amendment for a less dense land use classification than the actual property is listed. So it's currently medium density residential. They're asking for RS40 when we get to their PUD. Which would be supported by a medium density since it's a lesser density than what's currently out there. But Commissioner Justice requested that they ask for the land use plan to coincide with the zoning classification that they are requesting. So that's a low density. Of course, we would always support a lesser dense land land use classification, so staff does recommend approval for that. I'd like to add a condition, though, that should the PMDP not make it, then the land use plan would remain the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barlow, anything you wish to add at this point?
Nothing on the land use plan.
Very well. Thank you. Questions or comments from the commission?
So they want to go from medium density to low density, right? So they basically want to put fewer, they want to do a land use amendment plan to make it less density. But you're saying that if this plan doesn't pass, then we're going to go back to medium density.
Just leave it the same.
Leave it at medium density.
If you guys are okay with that, that's just a request that I have. So it would be consistent out there. It's all medium.
It's medium now. They want to take it to low, but if it doesn't pass, then we'll leave it at medium.
Correct.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. Further questions, comments from the commission? Mayor Manis?
Mr. Chairman, just to confirm, regardless of whether this passes, this has no bearing on the plan coming forward, does it? As you said, it's still supported either way, medium or low density.
We would
That's
we have historically allowed a lower density zoning in a higher density land use plan. It
Seems-
doesn't happen very often, but we have allowed it. For
Seems like a
instance,
lot of paperwork to accomplish nothing.
I agree. They originally did not request the land use plan amendment, but they were asked to by the commissioner of District 1.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Further questions or comments from the commission? This time I'd like to open up to citizen comments. Any citizen wishing to make comment at this point in time in regards to the land use plan amendment, welcome and encouraged to do so. Please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Drive. I'm a retired land surveyor. I've got about 50 years in development work, going from a single lot split, somebody want to put another house on their lot, to 10,000 individual family units. And I think I'm addressing the planning commission, which generally means looking into the future, as opposed to the reactionary committee. We seem to be getting the cart before the horse. Lebanon Road, I'm sure some of you drive that once in a while. The 2-lane section should have been improved 5 years ago. It's now on the agenda for what, 5 years from now? Bender's Ferry is a rural road designed for half the traffic it has now. The county's put in how many hundreds of units north on Bender's Ferry? And you're talking 300 more here. The 2 developments that are on Mays Chapel, you're putting the cart before the horse. Think about what's happening. Do we have fire suppression in our area? The answer is no. I wish we did. My rates would be a whole lot cheaper. What do we get out of it? You're supposed to be planning for maintaining the lifestyle, making this a nice place to live, but random development before you get the infrastructure in place, it hurts everybody. It may help the developer today make a large fortune. And yes, I worked for a lot of developers that they thought $10 million was a drop in the bucket, but I'm not that type of person. Maybe some of our developers here are looking to make 10 or 20 million off this development, walking away, and the rest of us are trying to build the roads for the next 10 years to get rid of the traffic. Luckily, I only commute through town on Friday. I used to drive from where I live to south, the gun range, south on Hudson Pike, and it took me about 20 minutes. Now it takes me 20 minutes to get to the freeway, which is only halfway. I've sat through 6 lights at Bender's Ferry if I leave a few minutes late. Thank you. I would just like our planning commission to look into the future. Does this help the future? No, it does not. I have no idea why we want unbridled development before we get the infrastructure in place for it. then I have no complaints whatsoever. But there's no reason it should take me 40 minutes to drive to Publix to go grocery shopping. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's that? Keep the outbursts down.
Yeah. Before we address the next citizen comments, we are grateful. Can't tell you how grateful, so I don't mean this disrespectful or dismeaning or any way that it could come off to you or any other tone. But the cheering, just keep it amongst yourselves if you can, please. No need to cheer and rah, because everybody that cheers also can have a boo or something ugly, and I guarantee you that that's not appreciated either. So I do ask to be mindful and respectful of that. And if you're welcome, if you want to make comment, your time is there, but please keep your cheering, crowd noise, or booing, should that opportunity arise, amongst yourself, please. I do ask you to do that. Please, next, name and address for the record.
Yes, my name's Nathan Thomas. I live on 2213 Bender's Ferry. And I built my house 17 years ago, and I knew this was coming. But I agree with the first gentleman. He is so right about the cars. There's going to be about somewhere around 800 more cars. And I agree with you about the red light. I sat through it four times just to go to the doctor the other day. And one concern too is the runoff from this major subdivision. Number two is the blasting. The blasting which has been done on Mays Chapel is already affecting us. You can feel the shaking of the houses. I've contacted State Farm and I put them on notice the damage that could be coming up from all the blasting done. And so they know already also. The sewer system, what are they planning on doing? Putting in their own sewer system for this subdivision?
They'd be tying into the, or extending the sewer to get to the neighborhood.
Tying into what?
Be public sewer.
Where's the public sewer now?
Silver Springs.
You know, it's 3.5 miles away. That takes a pretty good chunk of change to put that in. Back to the traffic. When are y'all planning to widen or are really preparing this road for all these 900 cars, the subdivision, Tremore? And I've noticed lately that there's another subdivision out there, Spin Lake. And that's a big subdivision. It's a nice subdivision. And I notice a lot more traffic. And that all this is combining now to really back up traffic on 70. So I think we need to get 70 and the intersection done before we put any more houses in. And you know, over there on the one, what is it? The subdivision, let me think of it, Mays Chapel. You're talking about 80 houses. I stopped and talked to them. They got, that's another 80, 160 cars. Do you travel that very much? Do y'all go that way? Well, you know, I do too. I do it 4 days a week. I go out and I go down and I have to go through Cooks and go out so I can see where the cars are coming from. It's a major problem there. If you go to the right, okay. If you go to the right, you got the same problem. There's going to be accidents galore. So I tell you, until you get the infrastructure in for the city, for the roads, I think we need to wait.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please.
Sue Flynn Meyer, 623 Gamble Cove Tubbs Road. And I was not even going to speak until I saw my neighbor Nathan speak. We butt up against the subdivision he was just talking about, which is called Hickory Point. 9 years ago, we moved from California, and we were going to spend 1 week a year at 12 acres on the water on this little road, Gamble Cove Tubbs Road. And we were deciding between Siesta Key, Florida on the ocean, and Old Hickory Lake. Who in the world picks Old Hickory Lake? Us. And the reason we did is the peace, the quiet, this little 1-lane road that led to our 12 acres on the road. And when Nathan just spoke, we are in year 8 of Hickory Point. And let me tell you what it is like. It's not even 40 homes. I actually just texted Mayor Hutto and Tom Brashear, who came to our home when this started 8 years ago. We don't even have 40 homes there. This is a nightmare with just 40 homes. And when Nathan spoke and he talked about our subdivision, there was no way in the world I was just going to sit and be quiet. I just got back from Hilton Head. I threw on a bandana on my head to come to this meeting. And the reason I say that is we're now looking for a second home on Fripp Island. Because if this is the direction that Mount Juliet is going with growth before infrastructure, Mayor Manis, this is not the direction to go. If this is about money, you're hurting the very people who love this place. We're going to spend 1 week a year here. We sold our business, a pharmaceutical company, software company, and our home in California to live here full time. And you're destroying the very area that people so look forward to living. How close am I on the 3 minutes, sir?
You got 1 minute.
1 minute, good. Sweets, will you please come up and talk? Because he's way better at the statistics versus my being emotional. Because will you? No? And you know, one thing we learned going through this for 8 years, we're told that growth is inevitable, that nothing we say is going to matter, and that you commissioners sit up there smirking, because we've been through this for 8 years. And the gentleman with the glasses who just smirked, why don't you build this by your house? Why don't you put this by Hutto's and Brashear's? Why do it to the people who love your areas? So.
Thank you.
Eldon Myers, 623 Gamble Cove, Tubbs Road. And and basically, like she said, we've experienced a small subdivision going in near us. The amount of traffic, the amount of dump trucks, the amount of construction workers, just the overflow, it's just been incredible. Crime, I mean, we've been vandalized on our property twice now. The amount of people just wandering on these one-lane roads because it's so beautiful out there. They buy their homes, they wander around in the mornings, and you got to drive like 10 miles an hour so you don't hit them. They don't see you because they're faced the other way and they're just looking around. Vandalism, and there's no police presence out there to speak of. If you do get police out, they say, we'll do a drive-by once a day or once every 2 days. So you've got these kids roaming around on golf carts and ATVs and UTVs, no supervision, bikes on the road, pedestrians on the road, no sidewalks, no infrastructure to support that type of lifestyle that they want, because they want to walk in the outdoors. It's a beautiful area. I don't blame them at all. But nothing has been done. And the number of intersections onto Bender's Ferry with no traffic lights, just poorly designed because it was never designed for that volume of traffic. It's almost impossible to navigate. Cars don't know how to get onto the main road. They don't know how to get off the main road. Nothing's been done. 8 years later, I mean, this year, maybe late last year, we got our road, new asphalt on the road, and they widened it a little bit, but you still can't fit 2 vehicles side by side on that Gamble Cove Tubbs Road. So it stresses everybody. It creates a safety hazard. Crime is up. We've noticed that in our area. And there's no, like I said, no police protection. So we get nothing out of the deal. All we get is the headaches. We pay our taxes too. And all we ask is that you consider, like everybody is saying here, we don't mind. We welcome expansion, but you got to address the infrastructure, not 5 years after it's already occurred, because that just doesn't work. So I would just ask you to consider timing these things. And we're told that other cities are not having this same problem in the area. Gallatin, they put the infrastructure almost immediately. So it's not that it can't be done. It needs to be done. And that's what we're asking you to do. Thank you.
My name is Mark Penland. I'm here with my wife Pam and two children, two of our three children, and we're proud residents of Wilson County for close to 30 years. So it's a little gem, a little piece of paradise. I kind of look at it like the Wilson County Fair.
What's your
Going
address
to-
for the record, though?
Pardon?
We need your address for our record.
2261 Bender's Ferry Road.
Perfect.
But anyways, Wilson County Fair, which is now the Tennessee State Fair, that's, I think, a picture of the progression and the change. And nothing stays the same. Change is going to happen. But I think I feel, or we feel as a family, the change and the planning before the implementation would be appreciated. Bender's Ferry is a log jam. Lebanon Road is a log jam. And just will be very interested to know what is the plan and the timing to accommodate so many more houses and people. But again, my mom was born in Old Hickory. I'm a transplant. I'm a Yankee transplant, but consider this home for sure. And it's been a blessing to live in Mount Juliet, Wilson County. And we've been very fortunate, but you know, we received the letter about the annexation and the development and have never been to one of these before, as you can tell. But, you know, just want to have a voice and a say, I guess, into what is likely to occur. But having a family driving Bender's Ferry Road every day, it's getting hazardous, I would say. It might be an understatement, but that's the concern. Change is going to happen. And, you know, Mount Juliet is on the map. I don't know that we were on the map 20 years ago. So that's a good thing. But yeah, I echo the voice and the concern from the other folks tonight about just the planning and the timing of accommodation of that volume. Thank you.
Thank you. Please. Let me give you an opportunity real quick because I'm getting a lot of questions up here and you're making a lot of valid points. I'm keeping great notes up here, at least I hope. We right now are simply talking about, I can't really give you the answers to your question at this point because we're talking about nothing right now. We're not on the plan, as I said. Right now, the item on our agenda is a land use plan amendment for a down zone, not a zoning. It's a plan amendment to take it from a medium density to a low density. That is all that we're talking about. So to help you with these answers, you guys might focus and bring your comments to the preliminary master development plan when that comes. That's 2 items away from us. That we're on item 4.1. Then our next item will be its annexation and plan of services, which would be 4.2. And when we get to item 4.3, the preliminary master development plan, that is where our staff will provide us their feedback and their input, answer many questions that have been presented, and would allow you maybe to more focus your comments towards what you've heard that are possible answers to the questions that you're going to get. So we're kind of ahead. Not that I don't want to discourage anyone from speaking, but you're not getting answers right now because that's not where we are on the agenda. So we're sticking to annexation and annexation only at this, or excuse me, the land use plan amendment only. So I don't want to discourage.
I will
Please.
wait until 4.3.
That's great. Thank you. If you want to talk, you got to go to the microphone. I'm sorry.
I'm William Harwell, live on, off Bender's Ferry on Lake Haven Drive. I've got a question. I don't understand what the difference is between medium and low density is. That's I'll have
Please.
something to say later about the other, but that's the only thing I want to know.
That's a great one. There we go. So with that, Ms. Hamlin, may you answer that for them, please?
So the land use dictates what base zoning can go on within that classification. They're asking for RS40, which is a low density residential, essentially acre lots. If it were straight zoned in a PUD, you have open space, which allows for a little bit smaller lots. And in medium density, they can have RS20 zoning, which would be the 28,000 square foot minimum lot size for straight zoning. And again, your density is, I believe, 2.2 units per acre, where the low density would allow 1.1 unit per acre.
Thank you. Hope that helps you.
If you want,
Please, Mr. Barlow.
throw some numbers out there. I guess the engineer will throw some numbers. So your acre is 43,560 square feet. That's how much 1 acre is. So when we talk about RS40, it's basically a lot an acre, and that's what this plan is.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, guys. All right. Name
Can
and
I-
address for the record, please.
If I speak now, can I also speak later? Sorry.
You may.
Okay. My name's Noelle Gooden. I live at 1320 Gay Winds, and my parents live at 992 Gay Winds, and we have a family farm at 2742 Bender's Ferry. And I guess all of these things are related to all of those areas. Of the things coming up, I'll have a different take on, but in terms of this one thing, it actually sounds like a good thing because it seems like it will protect us from really high density, bad development, because it will help us ensure that the development keeps more green space and doesn't pack as many people and cars as humanely, like it, it's not going to just be like a land grab for lots of money and how many people can we fit in the space, but that it's actually an attempt to think of the area and maybe preserve some nicer quality housing and some nicer quality land. So I just wanted to say that part sounds really great. I'll have some stuff to say about the other stuff, but I think things like this, they're actually what people in the neighborhood can get behind, because it does sound like someone's trying to think of what would look pretty in the area and what might look nice and add value to the area while creating some nice home spaces, and not just how do we demolish all the beautiful rural land and fill it with as many people in cheap houses as we can, which is, I think, what everyone's afraid of for legitimate reasons. So thank you guys, and I'll come back later.
Thank you. Please.
I'm Sam Burton. I'm on the Mount Juliet mailing route, but I'm a LaGuardia boy. My family goes back to 1805.
Can you give me your address real quick for the record, Mr. Burton?
I've seen a lot of changes.
Mr. Burton,
in this.
address for the record.
My address?
Please.
I'm sorry. I got in brand new hearing aids and y'all's sound system sucks. I'm having trouble hearing you.
Yeah.
Can everybody hear me? My address, 1403B, as in boy, Northern Road, Mount Juliet, Tennessee.
Thank you.
I've been where our planning commissioners are. In the early 80s, I filled my father, Bob Burton's unexpired term out on the county commission. I can remember when the roads.
Please
were
speak to the
church-
microphone, sir.
Sorry. Sir.
Please speak to the microphone. They're to us, not them.
Okay. Let's just say I go back a long ways, and I'm gonna come out and visit with the planner and get acquainted. We didn't even used to have planning commissions. Y'all have a hard job. I can certainly empathize with each and every one of you. And you've got a very hard job. For some reason, our rocks and cedars have got very valuable. And people come from everywhere here. They want to come here. We have a hard job. Now, in my case, as an old family, from time to time, some of us old families need to liquidate some land to maybe take care of loved ones, to square up hard farming years. Please understand that too. At one time, we like one farm going from 109 to Benders Ferry Road. I still own 200 acres of land. About 1961, my mother and father purchased that ground at adjoining property that my family already owned for $82 an acre. Well, that old land has appreciated a lot since then. That was back in the days when if a man had $10,000 extra, he could buy a lot of land. Our kinfolks chastised my father. Why are you giving that much for that land?
Got 1 minute, Mr. Burton.
I'm going to wind it up. Thank you. You're doing a good job, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
In fact, I'm going to get out of the way because I know the gist. I understand. I've been where you all are at. It's hard. It's hard. The only thing I'm going to say, I don't want to be in the city limits of Mount Juliet. I'm neither in the city limits of Lebanon. But if you all will bring me sewage lines down to my rocks and cedars, I'll reconsider. With that, good folks, I'm going to get out of the way.
Thank you, Mr. Burton.
I'm one of the old breeders. Thank you all.
Yes, sir. As somebody that's been here all my life, I recognize Mr. Burton's name, so that I do. With that being said, we'll close our citizen comments at this time. Name and address at the microphone.
My name is Andrew Abraham. I live on 250 Polecat Road. I'm kind of right in the middle of this proposed plan right here in the old one that's actually being developed on Mace Chapel. So I'm kind of like right in the target zone, so to speak. But just curious, the plan of service for this annexation, the plan of service, would that be defined as services the city will provide to this development?
That is correct.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, is there an easement of jurisdiction, like the city will exist only on these properties, or will it expand beyond it?
Only within the bounds of this property.
So that property line, that's where the city ends, because I'm going to be living literally right across the street. I got chickens, roosters. I don't want to be, wake up one day and violate the law,
You'll still be within county government. Yes, sir.
If it ever does expand, how much time does one usually get besides, is there kind of like I suppose the commission, so the Board of Commissions, they'll pass or deny or whatever happens. If the issue is passed and it's taken up and then expansion is done, is that usually like 5 years after the project has been built, sort of thing? I'm trying to look in 10, 15 years into the future.
Very good questions.
Yeah.
Is that, you want to share your second question? I'll get you an answer to that one. Is that
just whatever you can answer, I'm done.
perfect? Ms. Hamlin.
So are you concerned about your property being annexed?
Well, I mean, yeah.
So unless you ask for annexation, you'll never be annexed. It's state law.
Eminent domain at all.
No, sir. State laws, we cannot annex you unless you request it. The property owner has to request that.
Oh, at a fair market value. Correct.
We're not buying your property. It's just
Yep.
annexing you into the city limits of Mount Juliet.
Sure. Okay. I can never, unless the commission voted for it, I really don't have a say unless I consented to it.
The commission would never vote on it unless you asked for it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
You're
Yes, sir.
welcome.
It's a great question. All right. We'll close citizen comments this time. And at which time, I'm looking for a recommendation in regards to this item on our agenda. This is the land use plan amendment from medium density residential to low density residential. Looking for a recommendation in regards to this item. I'll make a motion for a positive recommendation. I get a motion and a second for a positive recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? That is a positive recommendation. With staff comments. Absolutely. Next item up on our agenda is also a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners. It is item 4.2, which is to review the annexation and plan of services for the Treemore PUD located at Bender's Ferry Road and Gay Winds Drive. Once again, annexation and plan of services. Next one up is a preliminary plat. I promise you, we'll get into more of your questions or probably answer some more of your questions. I've got a bunch of comments up here, so you're going to hear me say some as well. But this is simply annexation and plan of services for the Treemore PUD. With that being said, Ms. Hamlin, please.
Staff recommends a positive recommendation for the annexation with the same condition. Should the PMDP not go forward, we're not going to want to provide those services to an empty field. So it would revert back to county jurisdiction should the PMDP not be approved.
Very well.
Thank you.
Mr. Barlow, anything you wish to add at this point?
Nothing at this time.
Very well. Thank you. Questions or comments from the commission? Seeing no questions or comments from the commission? This time I'll call for citizen comments in regards to this item on the agenda. Please come forward. Name and address for the record, please.
Might not be the right section to make a
You're
comment,
okay.
but I'll go
You're
ahead and
okay.
comment. I'm Tom Rogge. I live at 2161, or my wife and I call the epicenter, on the corner of Gay Winds and Bender's Ferry Road. We are at the corner, the new wood fence. Right on my neighbors. My concern is traffic control and annexation. The only way to put that neighborhood in there is if you take over the control of the traffic on Bender's Ferry from a traffic control point of view. I invite anyone to come sit on my front porch anytime and watch the cars go by at 60 to 80 miles an hour, and I'm not exaggerating. And I'm not exaggerating. There's two black Mustangs, one red Mustang that sometimes wind up so fast. I feel bad for Johnny down the street because they get the Dudley farm and they think that's open. They slow down a little bit by us, come across that bridge. But I'm for the neighborhood, doesn't matter. I can't fight the neighborhood. I'm okay with that. But when you annex and you talk about services, that comes to mind. I'd love to have Mount Juliet's police sitting out there on my corner and Gay Winds and Bender's Ferry and drag down some of these kids and not all kids that are going by there at in excess of 60 easily. Easily. I mean, we got a 5-year-old granddaughter. We're scared to death. I mean, we lock every gate. We check everything before she can go in the yard, the dogs. I mean, it's scary out there. Second thing I wanted to bring up real quick with you is I moved in on a corner lot, and I like the little neighborhood back there. The Gay Winds neighborhood. It's a great neighborhood. We drive back there. My wife walks back there a lot. And I had no idea how much support vehicle goes into a neighborhood until I moved on that corner. 3 trash services a week, FedEx, UPS, concrete trucks, the pest control, lawn maintenance. So it's not 2.2. It made a really good point earlier about the 2.2 cars per house. And then magnify that times a multiple of the support vehicles that come and go in and out of a neighborhood, and school buses that run every morning and every afternoon. So just take that into account when you talk about annexing and what services you're going to provide. If you don't take over that road from a city point of view and traffic control, right now there is no shoulder, there's no policing. You can't even pull somebody over now. If the sheriff was out there, or state trooper, whoever's out there, there's no place to even pull somebody over unless you can get them to pull into somebody's driveway and block that. So when you talk about annexing and services, keep that in mind in your planning. The houses are one thing, low density, whatever. Can't stop progress. I understand that, but do at least with the services infrastructure. You're going to run sewer out there. Then get the police on Bender's Ferry Road. And I've been told you can't do that because it's a state road, but you better figure out a way to do that from a traffic control point of view, or come sit on my porch with me. I invite you to come by and we'll just sit out there and
you'll be scared to death sitting on my front porch watching the traffic on Bender's Ferry. It's scary. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any additional citizen comments at this time? See no additional citizen comments at this time. We'll close citizen comments, and at which time I'm looking for a motion in regards to this item on the agenda. This is the annexation and plan of services for the Treemore PUD located at Bender's Ferry Road and Gay Winds Drive.
I'll motion for positive recommendation with staff.
It's a motion for a positive recommendation.
I'll second.
The second, all those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? It is a positive recommendation. All right. There we go. Next item up on the on our agenda is also a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners. It is to review the preliminary master development plan unit development, including the rezone from Wilson County R1 to Mount Juliet RS40, located at Bender's Ferry Road and Gay Winds Drive. So I wanted to, as we open up right here, as I've said, this is where hopefully that you're going to be provided some of the answers that that you guys are looking for. I'm sure the commissioners will end up having individual questions up here that we're going to try to field as well. Maybe some of our questions will help answer your questions out there. All three of these items in regards to the Treemore PUD are recommendation items back to the Board of Commissioners. As such, that means that it will move forward to the Board of Commissioners, at which time it does require 2 readings at our City Commission in order for its approval. I would ask, as I turn the floor over to Ms. Hamlin, at what City Commission meeting would this begin, if you are aware of such? Just so they know.
It'll be on May the 8th. May the 8th.
May the 8th. Perfect. With that being said, Ms. Hamlin, please.
All right. This is a preliminary master development plan for a 349 lot single family residential development. As we all know, it's on Bender's Ferry across from Gay Winds Drive. The subject property is 317.41 acres in size and is divided in 6 phases, which will have a development schedule of over about 5 years. As you can see from the plans, this is an interesting property. They have a TVA line easement, rugged topography, numerous streams, and associated buffers that encumber this site, which allows for a vast amount of green space and open space for this proposal. As noted in your site data table on sheet C00, so it's the page just before C101, 158 acres are dedicated to open space with this project. The overall proposed density is 1.1 units per acre, and the minimum lot size is 10,000 square feet with an average lot size of 15. Much like the Moss Farm, and I'll let Mr. Barlow touch on this more, they have one proposed entrance and an emergency gated entrance on a secondary road. There will be minimal improvements to that secondary road on Polecat. Again, it is gated, and per fire code, that will be open and constructed by the 30th CO. That is a direct condition from our fire marshal, Mr. Blameyers. Amenities include a pool, pocket parks, a mulch trail, paved walking trails. They have the separate mail kiosk, which, if approved, would probably be a great location for their development board. Again, it's over 150 acres of open space, and I believe there is 31.174 acres of improved open space. So that's where you'll see the pocket parks, the benches, the pools. The pool and the pool house are scheduled to open by the 100th CO as noted on the plans. They're asking for a lot of conditions that are variances that you aren't used to seeing. And that is based on the site constraints due to the TVA line easement and those streams. When most of those are traffic related, variances, so I will let Public Works go over those with you guys. The first one is for planning is each home facade shall include up to 50% fiber cement siding. We worked with the applicant on some of their elevations, and I feel like we're getting a lot better product than what we've seen on previous submittals. But if you guys choose to support that variance, we would like to reserve the right to forward any elevation back to you guys that aren't in keeping with what they presented to us tonight. Bulk standards, which is not uncommon in a PUD, 30-foot front setbacks, 10 on the side and 20 in the rear. Again, the rest of those variances, I'll let our Public Works Department go over. They're mostly traffic or garage placement issues. Should you guys make a positive recommendation, we have some conditions to include if you guys wouldn't mind. And with that, I'll turn it over to our Public Works Department.
Yes, Mr. Barlow, please.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, Commissioner Chairman. Yeah, so I think finish up on the variances. Many of these are what we see fairly common within the development. One of the things is 25-mile-an-hour design posted speeds. Got my mic. So the 25-mile-an-hour posted speed are in design within the subdivision. That will help to actually help control traffic and calm traffic a little bit within.
I can't hear. Can you speak up?
See if you can turn our
Can we get
audio
on
up
mic
back there. In-room audio.
Hold the mic up. Sorry, my computer's in the way. Lean forward here. There we go. Better? All right, good. So they've asked for the 25-mile-an-hour internals for that's for all new internal streets. Basically, we're good with that because that helps to control the calming of the traffic within there. One of the issues we see with all of our residential subdivisions is the speeding concerns that we have there. So we're good with that one. The max grade on the collector roads, we're good, but we just want to make sure that is we keep the intersections lower at grade because that can sometimes be an issue in wet or slippery conditions. The slopes, I think they have some minimization of the steeper slopes in this neighborhood, and I can speak on that a little bit more. One of the advantages that you have in a PUD like this, you can, by right, if this subdivision was to go to the county, not ask for any sewer, they're basically, correct, Jennifer, 1 acre per 1 unit per acre. By right, they could go today and get 1 unit per acre. And that's with zero, we have nothing we can do about it. We have to approve it, basically. It can meet all of our codes and we have to approve it. As it is with a PUD, however, one of the things that we see oftentimes is smaller lots, which leaves open space, which helps keep more of the natural slopes. This development is probably one of the best that I have seen as far as trying to maintain the open space. This land here has a lot of rolling topography, and there's a lot that needs to be preserved. I think I'm a believer in preserving as much as we can in the context of what we have in front of us. And so I will say for that regards, the 20% slopes is one of those environmental concerns that we have that's in our code, and that's why they're asking for that. But they do have minimization of that, but I'll say the way it gets minimized is by the PUD route, where they can actually have smaller lots, and so they can keep more of the natural landscape. So we are good with that one. Cul-de-sac length variances, some of these are maybe future connections potentially. So we're okay with that so long as they meet the standard width for our fire guys for the 26 foot. So we go with the wider road there to help those situations. I think Jennifer touched on some of the other stuff. So I think that's kind of the nuts and bolts inside the development. External to the development, I do want to make note that we had a PUD pass last year further to the south. I can't remember the name of it per se. Is it just Bender's Ferry PUD? Moss Farm PUD. Yeah, the Moss Farm. And part of their improvements were basically improving Bender's Ferry from three lanes from their northern boundary south to Lebanon Road. And at Lebanon Road, they're actually tasked with improving it to 4 lanes. So you've got individual turn lanes for left and right, and then another one going south and going through. So we saw that as a win, as an interim type of improvement until TDOT's able to come through and do the eventual road widening improvement. And we're looking actually through developments and in conjunction with those, trying to get some additional turn lanes that can help alleviate some of the pressure we have at that signal. And so ultimately, I think long-term, that will work better, but that development actually would help the southbound movement tremendously. And so this would piggyback on that. One of the key things that we had as issues that when we looked at this through the traffic study, more the speeding concerns by the access and potential safety issues that we saw there at across from Gay Winds. So as part of that, when we talked with the traffic engineer that did the study on this one, I think they did a pretty good look at that. So what we had them perform was north and southbound left turn lanes. So you actually have the road widened. So if you're turning into Gay Winds, coming up from Lebanon Road, or if you're coming from the south, just given that buffer and that barrier for your northbound traffic, it can provide a refuge island for people taking a left out of the subdivision too. So there's some potential room. So just that extra room, we feel like can provide some safety benefits there. Additionally, a right turn deceleration lane into their site, which they have shown on the sheet. It's not numbered. I want to say C 1.00, most likely. It's missing the title. Anyway, so that's one that they have. One of the big things for us, and I know this from a fire code standpoint, and Brent can talk a little bit more, is the secondary access. Polecat Road is their secondary access here. It has to be improved to a 26-foot wide roadway in order to meet that standard. And that's 26 feet hard traversable pavement width for these guys. If they had to get on there, they can make that. So that's a must, whether it's gated, whether it's not. That's up for others to decide. But as far as we're concerned, for it to actually serve that purpose, it's got to have that width. I think that's about got the long and short of it, unless there's anything I missed, Jennifer. Shane, did you have anything else? All right, Brent, do you have anything else on the fire portion? No. All right, thank you.
Very well. That being said, I'll start us off because I got a couple of questions myself. Did you, and this more for Mr. Barlow, this looks like a painted entrance, 3 lanes, right out, left out, one way in kind of a deal. Have you looked at doing this more like a Jackson Hills, where you got a divided median right there separating those 2 traffic patterns in order to, since this only has one entrance to it, we have the crash gate, granted, but with the divided median at the entrance point right there, and it looks like we got more than enough room to be able to accomplish that. What would be your thoughts to do something more along the lines of like a Jackson Hill entrance? And that way you have 2 different zones established. So if there is a wreck blocking the ingress egress at one point, it'll create separation that should allow emergency services, homeowners, whatnot, to get in and out.
Yeah, it would serve the purpose for that area. You know, if you consider the access point being a dangerous point, then the more separation we can get there, the better. So it would serve just for that area where you do have that median separation, kind of like Jackson Hill, Stone Hollow, some of those.
Yeah, that's kind of what I envisioned just looking at that one. Then looking at, actually sat at, probably loitered on your quarter house over there just the other day and kind of just tried to get a visual on this one and get my bearings about you. You guys got a beautiful home, by the way. I sat there and looked at your fence and everything there. So I hope that none of this affects you guys. This one, the remainder of my questions really will go towards representation when we call for representation up here, but I had just two more. This one right here is a little bit different from what I can recall. I don't know that we've seen one quite this far out. Traditionally, when we've brought a subdivision into the city limits, there's been connectivity between parcels. And this one right here is one that normally this body's frowned upon annexation, plan of services when there is no connectivity. As such, this one appears to have roughly about 1.5 miles, 2 miles of distance between city limits of Mount Juliet and then city limits of Mount Juliet, then county, then city limits of Mount Juliet right there. I guess really towards, I'm super stoked that you're here for this one, being our fire chief. That's a large gap, large distance. I don't know that we've ever seen something like that. Your guys' coverage right there and ability to monitor it. I know that you can't really speak for police force right there, but I mean, thoughts on something separated out there from your guys' standpoint?
You're talking for emergency response?
Yes,
And
sir.
what we've gone out there?
Yes, sir.
So actually today I looked into this, to the statistics of how many calls we've actually had out there since Mount Juliet fire had
great.
started. Just since March 13th of this year to today, we've had 19 calls in that area, roughly. For the whole, since 2013, it was just a rough estimate, but we've had, I think, roughly, I want to say maybe 270 calls total. No structure fires in that location at all. Most of them are all medical, maybe a few crashes. So in a 10-year span, roughly 300 calls at the most. We don't run a lot of calls out there. Not saying it's going to happen, but statistics shows we're just not very busy out in that area. So, when it comes down to like fire stations and putting a station out there, it doesn't justify to have a station out in that area. It just wouldn't be busy at all. It doesn't serve the other areas better.
Very well. So the ambulatory service is servicing the county area out there as well as city limits areas?
Yeah, and if it's in the city, we'll be going there. It's just, response time, maybe about 7 to 8 minutes roughly.
I guess, and then one more question. This one's more directed towards waiver number 7. It says cul-de-sac length variances, roads J, K, L, and O. These cul-de-sacs range from 900 to 2,400, 700 square or to a max. If I'm not mistaken, there was a recent code change that required cul-de-sacs to be larger. Is that right? Underneath the fire code? And does this meet the current codes book and fire code requirements for cul-de-sac width and size?
What I talked to you about from Mr. Cowan at the County Planning Commission, are they on a different code than us? Or is it the radius?
I don't know what the county's code, they might be in the same, if they're using the IFC, that's the same. Even if it's an older one, that hasn't changed, that code hasn't.
Commissioner Winchester, it was like 100 feet, right?
Yeah, it was bigger, larger cul-de-sacs in order. It's 18 code.
To hit that radius
Yeah, it's not-
at the cul-de-sac.
Or it might
the
actually be
cul-de-sac
within the
radius.
21
Right.
code change book. And
Yeah,
I just wondered if we've adopted and changed and adjusted to that when we're about to grant a variance on a cul-de-sac right now, whether or not this even meets the codes as presented. And I'm sure Mr. Lovelace would maybe be able to answer that question, but certainly if we're going to be granting variances, want to make sure that we're within tolerance of codes,
And they also have islands in there. Mm-hmm.
which I think that affects this. And so just want to make sure that that's compliant.
I think
as
you
such
looked
as
that
well.
up the other day.
Yeah, so the radius of the cul-de-sac's 96 feet. That's from curb to curb.
Underneath the 21 code, or that's what it is currently, is 20.
That's what the 18 is.
So then doesn't meet the 21 code, but I don't think the city of Mount Juliet, if I'm mistaken, has adopted the 21 code amendments or changes, have they? Or the building, I guess that's more for the building department. They've
Yeah,
not
we haven't,
switched over?
Building and fire haven't
Still on 18?
adopted that at all yet.
Okay, perfect.
And I don't think we're not adopting that for a while anyways.
It's got some holes in it. Very well. Thank you. Let me open please, Mr. Barlow.
Chairman, I did want to let you know what our current cul-de-sac radius is actually to the pavement edge 40 feet today. And that's been an old standard since 20 years probably.
So we might need to look at.
It will get effective when we update to the 21 code.
Very well.
Mr. Winchester, that
Please.
might be a good condition for you to add should this move forward, and also to run that bus template. We just had that on the Tomlinson. You guys brought that up, and it was a good point.
That is, especially with all the calls. Yes, ma'am. Very well. Let me open the floor to the commission. Questions or comments from the commission? Please, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Speaking of some of these cul-de-sacs, I look at road number O, I believe it is. I think they're asking for a 1,200 foot variance to that. My problem to this is it's just got 8 homes on it. We're basically being a taxpayer funded driveway in a sense. We needing to be collecting, by my math, about annually $10,000 annually to support that road. And if you have 8 houses on there, that's going to break down to a little bit over $1,100 a year from each house. We can get that. We can get to that number if the property's appraised at around $4.2 million. When you take property tax minus street aid from that. So that's some of my problem. And this stuff I brought up with other developments on these things. So there's that. I guess I don't understand maybe for Mr. Barlow, why 13-foot lanes, 26 feet wide, when normally we're doing smaller inside of our neighborhoods typically.
Mm-hmm.
Is this for vehicles to be able to make tight turns or?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So what we go for these cul-de-sacs that are longer cul-de-sacs, so it's 24 feet of asphalt. Our lanes are only 22. So that's a little bit of the difference. And then we have curb and gutter. The curb and gutter, the sidewalk's the same on all of them. So to the point, I think on some of these, I don't think that I would be opposed. And I think probably something we need to discuss as far as the commissioners, as far as the maintenance and oversight of these roadways. But you can have portions of these maybe that they're private roadways to the point of a long driveway.
Yes. I guess the other thing, I'll just say this, there seems to be sometimes misunderstanding that we ask people to bring developments here to the city so we can approve it and get more money. That's I don't know that I've ever asked a residential development to come into the city. Probably begged Costco a long time, but never a residential or anything, because typically with our property tax rates, what we're looking at here is, I mean, we generally lose money on these type of things as a city. I've talked to the developers on this. I'm not going to say anything that's going to surprise them here tonight. It's a beautiful development. It really is. I mean, anybody would love to have something this near them. For me, it's just the wrong place. I mean, I know, Mr. Chairman, you asked some questions about emergency services, reaching out to it. To me, it's just too far. I think one thing that impounds the city going forward cost-wise is just sprawl. If this doesn't pass going forward, what are their options for us getting out of city sewer if they go through the county? Is this something that we would have to vote down and deny first, and then it leaves it open? I mean, I think this is a nice rural development, but it doesn't fit to me as an urban development, that something that fits our city. There's something I can go back and explain to somebody else why I would approve this.
Further questions or comments from the commission? Please.
One of the concerns I have is if we're looking at a secondary exit being onto Polecat Road, for those of you who were on the commission in 2020, we had an argument in February of 2020 about Triple Crown and about the fact that they wanted access to, Luke, what was the road there coming through into an older subdivision? Fescue.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks later, we had a horrendous tornado come through that area, hit Triple Crown, hit that whole area, decimated houses. And we were arguing about this very thing, about having a crash gate. And again, I see this as a subdivision that if something terrible comes along, we never thought that the tornado would come along in 2020, that there's a potential of something happening. And this secondary exit, even if something happened on Road A beyond where that one comes out on Polecat, people are stuck. I mean, trees come down or anything happens, then they're locked in. So that's one of the concerns that I have about this. The other one that I have about any development we have, and Mr. Hefner, you've talked with the school board, is schools for these kids. Because if I'm not mistaken, West Elementary, which is what this would be zoned for, has portables sitting out there right now to expand because they are more than 100% of capacity. And, our school zone can't, or our school board can't build these schools as fast as these houses are going up. And so we have an overcrowded school system on top of the traffic and everything. And believe me, everybody on this board is concerned about the traffic on Lebanon Road. It frustrates every one of us. But we are waiting for that to happen as well. But so my concerns are just that secondary exit and the school system.
Well, thank you. Further questions, comments from the commission?
I got a couple.
Please.
One general question, Andy, we talked about, if this fails and they go back to the county and go back to R1, what are their options for sewer service?
Denied city services, and with that being city sewer, they would do their own on-site septic, well, whatever they call it, the drip fields. Basically, they would have to have on-site treatment.
Assuming they could park.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
We had one before this body that we turned down that did just that.
Yeah.
No, across from Sanford Drive.
Yeah.
We'll make a note. Butch Earhart has development on. It's going through the county. It's
That's
already
what I was
approved
speaking of.
directly north of that, right?
That is correct.
Which this would actually connect to, by the way.
Yep.
I'm going to jump on one of the mayor's comments and just add to it. I would say Collector Road L is similar to that, not quite as extreme as Road O, but it's an awful lot of road there for not a whole lot of houses. And this looks similar to another subdivision that I know very well, but just the main road in from Bender's Ferry up to Road B. We're just trying to thread a needle and get a road through there to service the larger community. And I know it's been done before, but I still have concerns about a secondary access to the development.
Good. Commissioner Hefner, please.
Mr. Barlow, the improvements on the road improvements from the other development that was approved earlier, what's the timing on those?
Those have to be done before the first building permit, I think, of that development. So it's day one that has to be done. And that development came through, was it last month on the FMDP? So assuming they're on that track, they would probably be getting construction plans to us, I'd say this summer. And I'd say they're probably looking at constructing that year and a half from now, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah.
About a year and a half. The also the road improvements associated with this project, when I noticed that some of them are not tied to a CO, specifically the Bender's Ferry Road A, B, and C.
I would, and as typical for us, we usually have those done. If they're right at the main access point, I like to see those day one. So if it would be the will of this body, I think that would be the recommendation.
Yeah, I'm going to make that amendment. I'm also going to include number 2 is done by the first CO as well. My last point on this, Mr. Barlow brought up a good point. I think everybody should consider this. If this fails, like several other projects that have come before this board that have failed, they've gone to the county. And we've got one on Central Pike that failed and it's going to the county. We have one on Bender's Ferry that failed that went to the county, and we nearly avoided a lawsuit that ultimately got approved. With our subdivision regs, which were updated, they would have to comply with the 1 acre lots, but they would not come in as a PUD. If they meet our subdivision regs, which are 1 acre, minimum 1 acre lot, 1 acre lots, and they put the sidewalks in the right of way, they meet our conditions. We lose all the ability to leverage any off-site road improvements through that process. So all these road improvements that are being done as a condition of this PUD go away with the county. So I just want to make that clear that chances are this will likely go to the county. So please, that is also a consideration that I'm having to weigh. I anticipate that. I know Civil Site, nothing against Civil Site, but they represented a couple that have gone to the county. So I know they're represented on this project as well. So
Actually, I was going to make that point too during my staff report, but felt it was better to wait. In the summary table, you can see that this property is currently zoned A1 in the county, which allows for 349 lots, which is what they're asking for in the city. So if this project fails, this is my public service announcement. Watch the county agendas because it will hit a county agenda for Planning Commission. So whether we approve it or not, it can be built in the county
correct.
by right.
Correct.
So thank you for bringing that point up.
So I guess Commissioner Hefner answered one of my questions on the road improvements, that if we don't get them now, the county, they can pretty much, what if it meets county regulations, they can do it in the county. So how many calls and how long was it again that we had out there? On average, how many a year?
I mean, in the last 10 years, we probably had maybe around 300.
300 to 30 a year, right? Okay. And then I'm the new guy, right? So whatever happens here, if a positive recommendation goes to the Board of Commissioners, and then Board of Commissioners has 2 readings at that point, right? So it's up to
Goes positive or negative.
sure, positive or negative. So 2 people sitting up here, we're going to vote on it again anyway if it gets a positive recommendation, right? Okay. So and then again, it reverts back to, so right now they're asking for 349. They're trying to go from medium density to low density, and that's 349 period, right? So if it goes to the county, it's not going to go. What is that still? You said A1, right? So it's going to be 349 either way. Okay, thanks.
Good questions.
Oh wait, one more. So right now, emergency services is riding all the way out there. If it were in the city, that's the only that the hang up is. What I'm seeing is we're going to have to skip over to get out there to where we need to be. But those people out there, when they go to the county, they may or may not. They'll be serviced by the county maybe quicker than we can service them.
Trying to think where their station's at. It may or may not be. I'm not 100% sure.
I'm not
Right.
sure which one services them.
So my
Probably
question
the
is,
Clemens or the 109 would be probably the closest one.
At East Olegarda Road.
so who would service them quicker, us or them?
Well, I'm definitely not going to answer that. But
Do you-
I know the answer, but I'm not going to say it
I would
out
just have
loud.
to see where their station is and what their routes go. Then I can, I mean, it depends on how many they have in their station. If the 109 has just an engine with 2 people, they may not be as quick. I could probably venture to say we would be quicker.
Okay, thanks.
Because we just have more people on duty. We got quicker resources.
So 30 calls, no fires, but people, right? So people were emergency
Yeah,
calls.
and we would, whether it was a fire or a medical, we would actually offer more service, with more manpower, more service.
Thanks.
I think Mayor Manis can answer your question or help you to answer.
I did drive the distance from the North Green Hill station, the new one that's under construction. It should be opened up sometime next month. It's 5.1 miles to the Gaywins Drive intersection, or 5.0 depending on the vehicle taken. The new, it's about the same distance physically to the 109 station, I believe Station 6. And then the new one on Clemens Road that is about to open, it's a bit over 4 miles from it, which will be a county station. So that one would actually fall in the geographical 5-mile coverage for the new station on Clemens Road. Now, staffing, I can't speak to what the county is or isn't going to do there.
Thank you. Commissioner Hafford,
Yeah, I want to make one additional comment. In addition to the road improvements, we would also lose the conditions. I know there was several that mentioned blasting earlier during citizen comments, and I appreciate staff for including this. But I'm notorious for putting blasting restrictions on developments. I see Civil Site shaking his head, yes. So right now, they'll have to comply with a 1 inch per second blasting, which the state allows for 2 inches, 2 inches per 2 inches. So it's reducing the charge by 50%, meaning it's going to have a less effect or impact on the neighboring homes. Also included in the blasting restriction is notification from 500 feet at the perimeter of the property line. The current state only allows 300 feet from the actual blasting site, which you lose out on a lot of homes being contacted for blasting pre and post certifications, in addition certified letters going out, and the blasting seismograph monitoring company. The contract has to be held by the general contractor, not the blasting company, which is traditionally the way it's been done. So all of these blasting restrictions are tied to this PUD, which you would lose if, again, they go to the county. So
points. Further questions or comments from the commission?
Got one more.
Please.
We'll talk about, and Jennifer, probably push you a little bit. What is the standards for the facade in the county?
Design.
So it could just all be fiberboard if it goes back to county or reverts to county.
I believe so. I'm not familiar with their zoning
Okay.
or subregs, but I don't think that they have design standards. And Luke is shaking his head no, and he builds in the county. So no.
Okay, 10-4 on that. Not sure I'm totally in support of the 50%. That's pretty high. That's more than I think we've granted previously.
We have, as of late, been doing 50% of the homes at 50%.
Right.
Right.
Is that the way that was intended to read? 50% of the home at 50%?
I don't believe so,
Okay.
but you're welcome to ask the applicant when they get to the podium.
Okay.
I would feel more comfortable that way, but I'm okay with a little variation. I think we're all about bricked out at the table, so. Right. Yeah.
Further
So it is
questions
a
or
little
comments?
scary.
Yeah.
I understand.
Okay, thank you.
I just remember when we adopted that ordinance, the biggest opposition to it was the National Brick Representative. I found that awfully weird when that came around. So with that being said, let's call for representation to this item on our agenda. Name and address for the record and help fill in some blanks.
Sure. Good evening. Ryan Lovelace, CSTG, 2305 Klein Avenue, Nashville. Excited about this one. I've had so many subdivisions in front of you guys. That's been RS-15 zone, RS-20 zone. And I've never done an RS-30 zone. So to do an RS-40 PUD, we've come a long ways. And, and then again, going from medium density to low density, I think that's the first, as far as I know. The the beauty about this whole thing, and you guys have mentioned about this, the beauty about this whole process and the reason for the city is control. That's what the beauty of this is. And the annexation, where we've always been contiguous in the past to existing city limit lines, we're starting to kind of venture out a little further to be able to annex other properties for the city to control more properties. This person wants to annex, wants to develop this property, is okay with the city having that control with road improvements. This project is, I think, the first one that has this new requirement of 15,000 square foot average lots. How many times we brought 5,000 square foot, 6,000 square foot lots. So they might not be big to a lot of people, but they're big in the urban city projects. So 15,000 square foot average, 10,000 square foot minimum. These are all, if you look on the left side of the color plan, the orange lots are all side entry, and just eyeballing, it looks like a third of them are side entry garages, and then the rest are the fronts. And they're 80-foot wide typical and 75-foot wide typical. And again, I brought before you so many times 40-foot wides and 50-foot wide. So I think we're going the right way, and I hope you do too. We've worked on this for a long time, and we've looked at staying in the county. This is ag zoning, 1.1 units an acre. It's in the urban growth boundary. We feel it's better to be in the city for us and for you. One of the biggest things is we're bringing sewer to this whole area. I mean, it's a mile's worth of sewer, force main down Bender's Ferry to tie in either at the Moss Farm or tie in at Silver Springs, one of the two. So we're opening up an area to the city. We do have that access to Polecat Road. It's gated right now. We show it as gated. That I'm open for more discussion on that here and City Commission. We're already improving Polecat 26-foot wide. That 26-foot wide is in the International Fire Code so that they can have their outriggers go out and hit asphalt. So that's where that comes from. And we're okay with that. We're improving Polecat Road to 26-foot wide, keeping it as more of a rural setting of a road with no curb and no sidewalks, just widening the asphalt through there. And then, like Andy said, on Bender's Ferry, we are improving with a northbound at our entrance, northbound decel lane to get out of everybody's way, a northbound left turn into Gay Winds, then a southbound left into our project. So it should help traffic flow out there. We've had a great traffic engineer look at this, and Andy and his group has reviewed it. The amenities here, I mean, like we said, over 50% open space, 158 acres of open space. That's a lot. I don't think we've ever had that much before. We have a pool, we have a pool house, we have miles and miles of trails, asphalt concrete trails, as well as more natural mulch trails as you go up through the woods. We found that over time in these projects that we were trying to make all the trails ADA accessible, and we were defeating the purpose because we were wiping out the trees to make them ADA accessible. So what we're doing now is a little different in these subdivisions where we have a lot of paved ones where we can, particularly on the creeks. And then when you get up in the hills and the woods, go more of a natural trail you see in your state parks, where you can get up there and kind of weave through the woods and stay more natural. We have community gardens, playgrounds, picnic table areas, bench areas, dog parks. Pretty much any amenity I've ever had is on this project. Somebody asked about the cul-de-sacs. These are Metro Nashville standard cul-de-sacs. The asphalt keeps getting bigger and bigger for obvious reasons. So we started adding these islands in the middle. In Metro Nashville, we started adding these islands in the middle just so we didn't have a sea of asphalt out there to meet these requirements. And there's been a few of these projects here recently that we've been putting these in Mount Juliet. And that's what we're proposing here. But whatever that requirement is, we'll meet it if that needs to be changed. But this is a Metro Nashville cul-de-sac that we started using in Mount Juliet probably 3 or 4 years ago. There are some long roads, getting up to some vista areas. The one road that the mayor asked about was Road O. That's getting up on top of a bluff. So we're kind of making those what I call more of a state. Those are like, I know they're 1 acre, they might be 2 acre lots. They're big lots to get up there on top of that hill. So it'll be some neat views off of there, some walkout basements up there. But we're trying to utilize all the areas that we can while preserving more than half the site. And then like Andy said too, there's already road improvements that's happening with the Moss Farm development from last year with a mile's worth of 3-lane section from Lebanon Road a mile north, as well as a whole nother turn lane down at Lebanon Road. So, and then our turn lanes at our entrance. So there's a lot of good things on this project. We want to be in the city. We don't want to be in the county, but we're not asking for any more density. 1.1 units an acre is allowed today. We're asking for 1.1 now. In the county, there are no lot size requirements. You can be as small as you want. So that's another benefit to be in the city here. And then also the architectural requirements of the city that we're doing. In the county, there are none. And if you look at our elevations, we worked real hard on those. They look nice, in my opinion. They're at the back of your package there. A little more modern look, a lot of board and batten, but like I heard, we're getting away from that whole brick and stone look. Kind of get a little more variety. If you've been to Jackson Hills, as I call it, the Jackson Hills variety. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions and ask for your approval. Thank you.
I got a couple for you.
Yep.
Do we have any of those cul-de-sacs built currently in Mount Juliet? Do you know?
I was thinking, Andy, do you know?
I think we might have a few in Providence, potentially.
I think Walton's Grove.
Mm-hmm. Walton's Grove.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think they do.
Walton's Grove. That was
Let me check.
one. I just want to see them in person. It's very helpful.
And I'll say too,
Yeah, yeah.
if you in Baird Farms, there's a cul-de-sac there with just a sea of asphalt. So
Yeah.
I'd love for you to see that and how ugly that is and how it needs the center island to kind of soften the look.
And in all actuality, when trying to get somewhat familiar with that code change right there on the cul-de-sacs, I mean, you're right. It's massive sea of asphalt that's sitting right there. With the cul-de-sac design that you're proposing, then, I mean, is a bus able to turn around in there? Fire truck can get around that? It's a raised grass median, I'm assuming is what those islands are?
It is. It looks like your roundabouts.
Because particularly important, especially for Road B, because Road B, the only way that you're getting anything big in and out of there is to turn into one of those cul-de-sacs and turn and get back out. So if you get to the end of Road B, I guess where it's going to connect to Polecat down there, that little, I'm not sure the terminology, what you call that offset right there.
Yeah.
Is same thing, or emergency services able to clear that radius at that point?
The answer, it will. If it's not showing properly now, it will. I know Andy and his group will make us show bus turn movements, semi-truck movements. We'll have to show all that with the construction plans.
Okay.
So if you make it out of condition, it'll follow through the process.
Perfect. I will say this is the most amenities that I've honestly probably ever seen in my time here and spent a lot of time up here. Thank you for adding the lights at the entrance. I think that's hugely important, especially out there. There's no street lights out there on Bender's Ferry. So identification of this entrance and oncoming, I would say that's probably warranted maybe some additional signage out there on Bender's Ferry as well, just identifying turn traffics and whatnot, both to the north and the south entrance points over there. One of the best mail kiosks that I've seen come before us in a long time. Often been one of my my heartbreaks where we try to put those over there right on the amenity centers as well. And then, you got the kids wanting to go to the pool, but other parents without kids wanting to get mail and creating a little bit of conflict. So hats off to that. A couple things that that I'd like to see should it make it back to us by FMDP. One is you got your community garden right there. I'd like to see water provided for the residents. Can't really get a garden without any water to it.
Yes, sir.
And then as well, I'd love to see water also to the dog park up there. I can just see that going awry right there. How cool would it be? That way you can carry your little collapsible bowl or whatnot when you carry your dog. You don't have to worry about lugging water if you're going to actually utilize the dog park up there.
Not a problem.
The only other really concerns, comments that I would have is with this amount of amenities and with us granting variances, and we're granting some of the variances simply because of the topography that lies within this development itself. That means that, don't get me wrong, grateful for the trails, grateful for the sidewalks and everything else there. But realistically, when you look at it on this sheet of paper, it doesn't look very deep. It is a hugely deep piece of property. So there's a lot of acreage that's going in over there. I'm one that feels like there was a neighbor that or somebody that mentioned four-wheelers, gators, motorcycles, ATVs, things like that, riding, golf carts maybe. You could see that in there. But one of the things that with the amenities, which I love, is the lack of availability of some parking around them. Would love to see a way, whether or not it's parallel parking with offsets on the main road. Looks like a lot of the amenities, there's opportunity to gain some parking, especially at your major amenities. You got your ball fields down there, which I can see being utilized. Lookout Point because of the topography and your view to the lake right there, your dog park over there, and even your community garden. You're going to have to walk a pretty significant amount of way. So last thing you're going to do for the community garden is ride your bike up there with your tiller and everything attached to the back of it. So
Great idea.
So would like to see the ability to use the amenities with the incorporation of some parking on that. And then if you incorporate that parking as well, I'm sure the HOA would probably do something like this. And I know with being in the city of Mount Juliet, we already have an ordinance in place. It doesn't allow overnight parking. But if you're able to incorporate the parking to complement the amenities which you've drawn on your plan, signage also to include no overnight parking, because you're going to put that parking within houses right there. So just making sure that people use it for the appropriate reasons, not inappropriate reasons, in order to queue, Cousin Joe's car or something else over there. That's for your own yard, your own driveway. I would like to see the divided median at the entrance to this. I think that'd be helpful. It's ornamental in nature as well. Possibly gives you a place to put your lighting package, your monument sign. I know there's a comment in regards to that for the intersection. And it gives us that division that I think, especially on a neighborhood like this, that not only is it more aesthetically pleasing, but it gives you, Robert Frost, good fences make good neighbors. And it gives you a good divided line right there. So however that's incorporated, I think that would be welcome in this, be complementary to let this sort of be subtle as an addition with anything more green as you've done with your islands, I think are a good thing there. I think that covers. Oh, one of the things, planning and zoning comment number 6, provide covenants and restrictions for review. Would love to see within your CNRs a limitation upon properties available to rent.
Yes, that was a condition of Jennifer's comments too. And then number 20 also.
That's in number 20?
Talks about it for 10%, I think the number.
But we need you to put it within those CNRs.
Okay.
It's certainly it's beneficial if it lies within there. I guess it would be my understanding is that's probably the best place in order to place something like that.
Understood.
Just try to make it a for sale community, which I think would be important.
Okay.
That being said, any questions or comments from the commission? Very well. I did a good job fielding all those questions.
Thank
you. All right. So I hope that we have explained a lot, maybe answered a lot of questions. I'm sure there's some questions out there amongst yourselves that remain to be answered. A couple of things for those that might not be familiar. I know Commissioner Hefner over here has mentioned the ability to go into the county, ability to talk about city. One of the things that came up was someone's comment earlier was the lack of sidewalks, lack of lights, and things like that in some of the neighborhoods that are affecting you, or some of the newer neighborhoods that are county development. City of Mount Juliet does have an ordinance that requires sidewalks on both sides of the road. So within this development, there will be sidewalks on both sides of the roads within this development. So as you get into those evening hours, that should help contain there. Unfortunately, people will be people, as you'll know. I know that there's been some secure or concerns about safety, maybe wandering over onto my property. I wish there was a good way to do that. Call the police would be my recommendation if someone's trespassing amongst your property. That is definitely not fair. If it's not theirs, you shouldn't use it. So I hate that if that's happening amongst you guys out there. I tried to make sure, I guess I tried to take some notes, make sure I believe that we've addressed most of the comments that, or the questions that I heard from the limited amount of folks that have come up amongst us so far, including your comment over here. You know, that's a state law. I mean, you cannot be forced annexed into, you got to come up here. You would have to be, as the homeowner, asked. You would have to request that to the city of Mount Juliet. So even though you're adjacent to the boundary of a city limits, I personally live in the county as well. I personally back up to the city limits of Mount Juliet. My emergency services are provided by Wilson County and not by the city of Mount Juliet. And there's somebody else mentioned, I guess it was Mr. Burton, you know, give me sewer and give me those same emergency services. I sure would like them. And there's moments to where they would be really well welcome, but it'd have to be something that you would request individually. So I hope that answered some of y'all's questions as you got forward. So with that, I do want to be mindful. We do have a lot of people here. I know you've answered, we've tried to answer a lot of questions, but let's open it up to citizen comments. Once again, please try to limit them to 3 minutes or less. And if you get to that last minute, I'll just kind of wave at you, let you know that we got 1 minute. So if you can help me to summarize those and just keep them focused, and name and address for the record. Come on up.
My name is Phil Hill. I live at 528 Gay Winds Drive. Also on the property just north of this plan. And I don't know whether this is significant or not, but y'all are going to be voting from Wilson County R1 to RS40. Is that what this section is?
That's correct.
Is this property R1 right now? Pardon?
A1.
Yeah, because you got my property listed as residential. It's actually agricultural.
Where do we have that?
So some of the property surrounding it is not residential, it's agricultural. Y'all kind of implied in the last few conversations that, well, if we don't approve it, they'll just go to the county and get the same thing. And I can't believe these guys are going through all this trouble. And if they can just go to the county and get the same density and the same amount of, one guy said they could just make the lots any size. I don't think that's true at all. I think they have to have at least 1 acre lots, right? Pardon?
If they're
Within a cluster development, they have the right to smaller lot sizes.
Yeah.
With what?
Within a cluster development, which is sort of like an overlay in the county, they have the rights to have smaller lots. Now, the county is looking at increasing lot sizes and putting those restrictions on there, but I don't believe at this point they do.
No, it's not passed.
They have different options. I have a question. Sorry, Andy. They have different options on whether you have no sewer, you're served by public sewer, or if you're served by maybe wastewater authority. I'm not sure. But there's 3 different options, and it's all based, lot size is based on your sewer or wastewater.
As previously mentioned, I know that this proposal does tie into an existing already approved county development, which already has an ADINUS, or Water and Wastewater Authority of Wilson County service already applied to it. So it's readily possible that if they did go to the county, that sewer's already solved because you got a adjoining property that's already approved. Within the county that this body turned down.
Approved for what, a SEP system or something?
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah, that's already been approved through the county. It's that piece of property directly across from Sanford Drive that has access to Quarry Road and Bender's Ferry right at Sanford.
Well, this property is not adjacent to that.
It is.
It's just north of it.
got a
That this
tie
new
into it
development
from
is
road.
just north of this development.
From Road L, I think is what it is.
They also have a connection to Gilly, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Correct. Or to Gilly. Sorry, I said Quarry.
it's Gilly.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'm not reading it right. Okay.
If you happen to have a copy of the plan sheet C-101, actually shows the neighborhood to the north of this property. There's a county
I
approved
still
development.
can't believe that they would be jumping through all the hoops to go through the city if they couldn't get a lot more density. And if they got to have 1 acre lots and they got 300 acres, they'd be lucky to get 150 over there.
Yes, sir.
Because none of that property is going to perk. It's all solid rock, I guarantee you.
Yes, sir.
So anyway, that's what I think. I think that I don't think we need to be intimidating these folks saying you can go and run down to the county and get the same thing. I don't think that's true.
Thank
That's
you,
my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
May I respond to that?
Please.
My statement about that was not to intimidate anybody. It was actually a public service announcement
Yeah.
because a lot of times when they do go to the county, if it's allowed by right, they don't get notices. Like we send out notices to adjoining property owners. So my statement was not threatening in any manner. I want to make our citizens aware of what's going on. So that's just me and you guys trying to be transparent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Please.
I just want to say that given all that, it is, oh,
Hang
I'm
on.
so
Name
sorry.
and address for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're great. Come on.
I'm Noelle Gooden again. 1320 Gay Winds. My parents are at 992 and our farm is at 2742 Bender's Ferry Road. I just want to say again, it's great to have this process. It would be much more great to have county and city and all the parties here because it does feel like we're being intimidated and being forced to pick the lesser of two evils, which doesn't feel fair for something that's permanently going to demolish our land and our community. Like there are nesting bald eagles, there's pelicans, there's all sorts of nature that we haven't even brought up. The eco damage that's going to go into moving almost 400 houses into this rural community, which even if the sewer's there, like what impact is that going to be to like bring in these sewer systems and bring in these extra roads and completely demolish our community and what we chose to live, what we pay good money to be there. You know, I've been there close to 30 years as well with my family. And I think everyone that lives out there, we really care about like the feel that's out there and the nature and our sense of like Mount Juliet is this beautiful rural place where, again, we can see eagles, we have peace, we have trees, people can visit this, you know, we are shepherds of this area. And I love that Mount Juliet City has done great things with development. It's beautiful to drive through town and see like the cool buildings are out by the railroad and there's like beautiful urban brick. So there's been great urban decisions put into the development that happens in the urban area of Mount Juliet. But I feel like we should make those same sort of good decisions to go into the rural Mount Juliet County. So why not, whether it's the city or the county helping with this development, why not have 100 houses and not almost 400? You know, why not figure out a way so that the road doesn't empty right on Bender's Ferry, which is like already dangerous and overused, but why not find a way to make that road spit out onto Lebanon Pike or like spit out closer at least. If it's going to be on Bender's Ferry, spit out closer to where Joy Church and all the stuff is. It feels inappropriate to say that being forced into a situation that is the lesser of two evils is progress, because it's not progress. And I think we would be happy to have progress. We would love to have a beautiful development that has lots of not open space, but green and natural space. And I think there's a difference that we have to be mindful of. And I think a really beautiful development could happen that would bring value and wealth and all those things into our community. And I think we'd be okay if the city managed it. It's not that. I mean, I think y'all make a lot of good points that maybe y'all can manage something better, but we would want that something to be still be something valuable and safe for our community. And that's not 360 houses and tons of people. And respectfully, data from emergency services for the last 10 years does not equal what's going to happen. I'm a medical physician. I know science. Like, we would never just based on 10 years of situation A and say it's going to apply to situation B. It's just not, that's not how science works or research works. So it's going to be a whole different thing with this. I think we could figure out a beautiful development to put there if we spend a little more time.
It's 3 minutes.
And that's sorry. Thank you guys for listening.
Please, well, Commissioner Bullock's got a comment. So, but if you want to speak, next person, please come up in line, please.
Spoke about the people, one's too many, right? So statistically, I wasn't talking about I wasn't minimizing the impact of the people out there. One is too many. So what my question was really pointed towards 30 people. That's 2.2 people a month that could potentially have an emergency situation, and that's one too many. That's what I meant by that. I wasn't trying to minimize the fact that it was only 30 people. 30 people is way too many, right? So that's what I was trying to do. Just wanted to clarify that.
Great. Please.
Stanley King, 535 Gay Winds. A question for somebody here if they can answer it. If this was denied, and it did go to the county, would they have a public sewer system to tie into, or would it be on-site septic? I think the developer should be able to answer that.
Have they discussed options?
Can you answer that?
If they came to the city and we refused sewer service, they would have the on-site Adena step system.
Okay, if it did go on site, you're probably down to 2 to 4 acres per house because of the rock, because of the terrain, because of the lack of soil. Current septic regulations, you got to have 2x replacement for the leach field. Next comment, just keep that in the back of your mind. But the next comment is the intersection on Bender's Ferry right across from Gay Winds Drive. I don't have the advantage of having the plans. I sure wish I did. But that curve there, if you're heading north on Bender's Ferry, you're going uphill, curving to the right. If you're coming south, you're curving to the left and dropping over. The sight distance for a posted 45 mile per hour Bender's Ferry is not there. I'm not sure if they're going to try to widen that a couple 100 feet into their own property and acquire property from the guy with all the chickens just south of them, because it's too sharp for a 45 mile an hour posted speed limit to meet any traffic regulations. And I'd like to talk to your traffic engineer myself. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Russ Pickus. I live at 12 Heron Way. I do not have a road named after me yet, but keep it in mind. I have a couple concerns. First, I think the whole housing development, it's awesome. It's beautiful. I wouldn't mind living there myself. However, the primary concern for me is that, and we haven't addressed that, is it doesn't matter if they can get in and out of the development and have a nice turning lane and a nice median. The problem is you got a disaster down at Lebanon in Bender's Ferry right now. You've got a high school. Every morning you got a traffic jam. Every evening you got a traffic jam. When the soccer fields are going, they have a police officer directing traffic. On the north side, you've got the church. You have a police officer there directing traffic every time they try to get out of there, because there's just too many cars on a 2-lane road. Turn lane isn't going to help. On the east side, you got the elementary school, overcrowded. And that's a traffic jam every morning, every evening. A turn lane doesn't help. You got too many cars in a 2-lane road. And timing is everything. For those of us who live out there, you look at your watch before you go down Bender's Ferry. Because you know, if you're going to turn west during rush hour, there is a 3/4 of a mile backup. And a turning lane of 100 feet, it doesn't do anything. So you can have a beautiful subdivision, you can have a great turning lane, but unless you figure out how to fix the traffic we have right now, adding 349 homes, man, that is going to turn a disaster into a catastrophe. The other part of that problem is, as you go north, there's really only one way in and out of Benders Ferry. If you go up north, Riverview, I think it is, that is about a mile before you get to Burton's Road. It's basically a single lane road, very windy, lots of trees, terrible visibility, and no shoulder. So as you go down that road, if there's a truck coming the other direction, then both of you are going to have to stop because you can't get off the road. And if you're going fast and if it's raining, any kind of problem, it's an accident waiting to happen. So people are never going to go up north. They might try when they first move in, but it's not going to work. So anyway, my last question is that gated thing, any chance that could be a construction entrance? Because if this is going to take 5 years to build, I can't imagine 349 houses, the dump trucks, all the construction people going in and out of there for 5 years out of that one entrance. That's going to be rough. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Chairman. I'm Clay Harrell. I live at 594 Lake Haven Drive. I've been living on Lake Haven for 27 years. I've been in Mount Juliet for 54 years. Seen a lot of changes here. I'm not opposed to growth. I was a proponent when Mount Juliet was trying to get the sewer system in back in the early 80s. So I'm not opposed to growth, but I am opposed to growth that's too quick for the infrastructure. I'm not going to go back and rehash everything about Benders Ferry Road and Lebanon Road, but can anybody answer the question is, when is Lebanon Road going to be widened from Golden Gallon, where it used to be Golden Gallon, right there at the John Deere place, on out to Highway 109?
I know, Mr. Barlow, you want to speak to Lebanon Road corridor?
Sure. Yeah. So we have the environmental document approved. Right now, we're just waiting on funding for right-of-way acquisition. Once that happens, then we'll have a better time frame. So right now, that's not funded. So we're a little bit on hold, actually.
Yeah.
So
Don't know.
Yeah. No.
So with all of
I don't wanna
the
guess
federal
anymore.
funding for infrastructure, we're not getting any of that money, because Providence Place, from Providence on out to Central Pike, that's a big bottleneck right there that should have been taken care of 5 or 10 years ago. And I know there's a proposed interchange at Central Pike. I used to work for the man that owns all that land at Central Pike. And that should have been done a long time ago to get a lot of traffic off of Mount Juliet Road going through Providence. So I'm not opposed to growth, but can we just slow it down and let the infrastructure catch up? You got going towards Lebanon, that 109, how many hundreds of apartments are going in there? How many hundreds of units? And then on into Lebanon, you got probably several hundred, maybe a few thousand more apartments going in. And 109 was just widened 2 years ago, and it's already jam-packed with traffic. So once all of those apartments get built, what are we going to do? I mean, we're going to have a log jam everywhere we turn. I mean, I've been here for 54 years. I'm ready to move out of Mount Juliet just because of all the traffic. I don't like to go to Providence. I don't like to come out Benders Ferry Road in the morning because you can't get out on Lebanon Road. And I don't see any alleviation of the traffic in any time soon. You know, it's going to be at least 5-10 years down the road. So again, I'm not opposed. I know I just want to voice my opinion and let you know that it's a problem for everybody, especially out Benders Ferry Road. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Fulbright, Polecat Road property. Again, I've heard nothing until the last two gentlemen spoke about, from the developer or anyone else, about the traffic at Lebanon Benders Ferry Road. They just spoke about it. That's a big concern. It's a log jam. Everybody that spoke here tonight lives in a dead-end community. You cannot get out of that area. You can't go across the lake. You can't go to Lebanon Road without, or 109 without going down Lebanon Road. You can't go west anywhere along Benders Ferry. You've got to go down Benders Ferry to Lebanon Road or over to Cooks. There's no two ways about it. And it's a mess now. That 0.4 of a mile that's 2 lanes from from Lebanon Road and Benders over toward John Deere, 4/10 of a mile is pure hell for anybody that comes in home late in the afternoon. So again, the infrastructure's got to be taken care of before you put all these homes in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Lori Ramon, 315 Gilly Road. I want to just go on record that there's 4 proposed developments in our area, not just the one we're talking about tonight. So Gilly Road, Sanford, Bender's Ferry, you got Moss property, you've got Mace Chapel, which dumps traffic into Bender's Ferry as well. So that's 4. So what scares me to death, because I think I've heard a couple of the meetings that they won't allow people to move into the houses until the turning lanes are there. But now it sounds like Lebanon Road will remain the same. So you're saying all those houses would be built, we'll have turning lanes on Bender's Ferry, but Lebanon Road and Bender's Ferry will still be the same. The other scary thing is, with 4 proposed developments going on at the same time, think of all the dump trucks, all the dump trucks. I remember when they built the access road off of Gilly, which is a dead-end cul-de-sac road, a little bitty road. I bet 20 dump trucks came down that road a day. And a lot of my neighbors, we walk, we have dogs, we walk up and down our street. You couldn't walk up and down the street. So I feel sorry for Polecat Road, because if that happens to you, it's not going to be good. And ours went to the county, I think. I can't remember. I think it went to the county. I know there was a watershed. There was an environmental research. They got their permit. But other than that, it's difficult to get plans. And, we all work, we have jobs, we have lives. And to have to dig to find out what is going on in your neighborhood, it's pretty sad. So I hope you're listening to us. It's just going to get worse. Please, please catch up the infrastructure. The schools, again, got to reiterate the schools. There's not room. Thank you.
Yeah, Andrew Abraham, 250 Polecat Road. I think 3 questions well, first off, can I get a copy of the current plan that the planning commission or the planning department is using or observing?
Do you want to look at it right this second?
An actual physical copy, if I could.
Right this second?
No.
Yeah,
No.
you're welcome to my plan set as soon as this is over.
Here in the building?
Mhm.
Okay. With widening Polecat Road to 27 feet, is that like dead center of the current road that it is out to whatever variance it has to be, or is it based on the topography that they have to work with?
Sparrow?
We haven't dove into that one yet, so it's really going to have to work with the topography and the available right of way.
What was the first thing you said?
Working with the topography.
The topography, okay.
Yeah, and right of way restrictions are going to be there too.
Right away.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. I think one of my last one was, how far is that? I suppose any you guys haven't discussed how far that pavement will be redone. Is it to where the current pavement ends, or at the very least to where private property begins?
Yeah, we did take a look at that. So it'd be from Mays Chapel to the entrance of their subdivision, which is kind of the end of the road today.
That's like right at my front door.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another reason why I would like to be able to get a physical copy so I can see more of that. Is that possibly available online?
I think that we do the meeting, the minutes and everything else, but I don't think that we have the full plans online, do we?
We do not. We don't have the capability for that size of a document.
Traymore-subdivision.com.
There you go. Trey Moore, Trey.
Sure.
Did I spell that right?
Oh, you mean just Google it or?
TREYMOR -subdivision.com.
Okay. This is available, the recording?
of these meetings?
They are.
Yes. Okay.
Absolutely.
Are they free online then?
Our meetings absolutely are. I think that if you come to staff and you request a paper copy of it, there is a cost for them to produce a copy. Down in the
okay.
planning department, which is located in the basement. So
Okay.
if you just come, the entrance to the planning department is on this corner right here. You just walk down there into the basement. Planning department's to your immediate right as you walk into the door. Building department's on the left. Planning department's immediately on your right, and can go down there and see them. I don't know if they can produce it immediately, but if you pay for a printed set of the plans, they'll produce them and then contact you and get you a full set.
Okay. So just those guys right there then?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes,
Thank you.
sir.
Good evening. I'm Sean Belville. I live at 616 Lake Haven Drive. If I keep talking, we'll probably be saying good morning here in a little bit. It's past my bedtime. A lot of the folks have really done a nice job of talking about the roadway concerns, so I'm not going to get into that. But I have been trying to find out for several months, what exactly is the procedure for the city of Mount Juliet and probably Wilson County to work with the state to get state roads funded? I could never get a straight answer, and even this evening we heard we're waiting, and I've heard that expression a lot. We're waiting. How do we get them to move quicker to help all of us get these roadways improved? And I think Commissioner Hefner, you mentioned lawsuits. Is there something in our regulations in the city of Mount Juliet that say we have to approve these developments, or we get sued, regardless of what the state is or is not doing for the state road funding?
I don't know that I really got an answer for you.
It's
on
just
that.
hard. No one can answer
I
it.
would definitely encourage you because that's kind of unique about Mount Juliet. Central Pike, Mount Juliet Road, Lebanon Road, our main thoroughfare and corridors are all state highways. So I would strongly encourage you to communicate your frustrations to your state legislatures.
So in this room, we have no clue what's going to happen between York Street and Dogwood Terrace. We don't know. We're waiting on them to get funding. I think it's a $20 million project. And then acquire property, that's going to take forever. So the project tonight really doesn't matter if it gets approved or not. We already got 4 that are approved in the pipeline. So right now the state is where we need the help.
Yeah,
it is.
Agreed.
So what can the citizens do? We talked to our state rep, and I think someone did down for Central Pike.
Yes, sir.
They got the district commissioner to work with one of the reps, and the rep actually came out, I think. How did that work out? Are they getting the fund? Is this for the interchange?
We'll speak to that. Please.
Yeah, we've made a lot of efforts here lately to reach out to the state, try to repair some maybe relationships there with it and get things going. Did go down and meet with the governor, sit down with TDOT commissioner. It was well timed. I just got a note today from State Representative Lynn that they have increased the budget for TDOT funding. I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of our head, but for the longest, TDOT was getting $2 million a year, and that was roughly less, a little over $1 billion, about $1.2 billion. I just got a number here, that was the addition, correct? $3 billion. That they added an additional $3 billion. To put that in perspective, they have normally operated off about $1.2 billion off their projects. So they upped it to $3 billion. So it's now $4.2 billion. As Director Barlow pointed out, Lebanon Road, the time the studies had completed for the environmental studies on that, the budget was already in the process. I did not think it was going to get in the budget this year. As soon as that budget gets going and we get the money on that will start. I don't know the time frame on that one. I do know with Central Pike, and as some of you have alluded to here, there is some problems that we've been facing definitely with Mount Juliet Road down there. That's one of 3 projects that are going down there. Mount Juliet Road, Central Pike, and the interchange down there. Well, we're expecting some updates here just as soon as those budgets have gone. I don't have the exact timelines on where those going, but we know we've done everything we can do as a city to try to move that forward and try in every way that we can to, as far as partnership with TDOT, to move things as fast as we are, because it's the biggest bottleneck here at the city And that's the thing. You look at this, we work with TDOT in every way we can to do the engineering on US 70. It has a time frame. The portion that falls outside of the city, unfortunately, I don't know that there is any time frame or any works with that. And for us as a city, whether we stop growth internally in the city, we still get to the point here is development still happen outside the city. So we're kind of stuck in the middle between what goes on outside the city and where the interstate is. So, it's up to us. It falls on us to, to facilitate those things, to get those moving. We're doing engineering now. We'll probably start the engineering work down on the south side as soon as we can release those things and get going. But right now we're just sitting on there and waiting for the funding on that. And I don't know how long that will be. There's quite a few obstacles on that for us. Businesses have to be relocated. It's not a small task. And I talked with a gentleman who retired from TDOT. He drew up the plans back in the 80s. This is how far we've fallen behind on some of these things. And it's not just a Mount Juliet problem. It's not just a Wilson County problem. It's a state problem. And I will commend Governor Lee starting in his second term, which he won't get a third term. So it's not for a give me votes, but this is a problem in the state. We're behind, and we're going to do things to put it and move it forward in the state. The General Assembly, for them, they can allocate the funds to it. And this is the biggest thing that we've seen for as a state, for as money being allocated, I think ever as a one-time put it into it. So it's starting to get the attraction at the state level. And the state, Middle Tennessee has been growing across the board, and the state is really taking a strong stance on that. We as a city we're committed many times over our annual budget. Was it something $240 million worth of improvements that we're committed
Roughly.
across all the, sorry?
Roughly, yeah.
Roughly. And I know those are always a moving target over the term of those limits. And that's our contribution to trying to move those as fast as we can. And when I say numbers like $240 million, to put it in perspective, we'll probably operate this city off roughly a $30 million general fund. So Mount Juliet's doing everything it can to move the needle and stepping up and outright paying for projects to do it. And it's one of our biggest challenges that we face when it comes to this city, the area on it.
Thank you. Okay, one more just comment and then
Please.
we talked, so
Yeah,
I
that's
kind of
pretty
messed up
good
our minutes
stuff.
here. Can the city of Mount Juliet and also Wilson County, can you pause projects legally through your regulations to hold those projects off or developments off until the funding is provided by the city for those projects that are needed? The funding is needed by the state. The regulations allow you to do that? Is that a Gino question?
In a PUD, you could make that condition. I don't think that the county would necessarily make that a condition of one of their approvals because they don't have the PUD process. So this would, if it was approved in the county, not in the city, it would be approved by right. And they don't have PUD, so they wouldn't be able to make that condition, I don't believe.
Thank you.
I could be
Mike?
wrong. I don't work for the county, so I don't know for sure.
To respond to that, somebody said it out here, and I've said the same term many, many times. Someone said the lesser of two evils, and if you set up here, you are choosing between the lesser of two evils many times, because our state constitution does guarantee landowners the right to develop to some degree. So, the question is, can we stop things? We can't just outright stop things. That's a guaranteed right that land can be developed. And then it comes in the question of the lesser of two evils. Do you just let it develop straight across the board and you get nothing additional out of it? Or do you work through the PUD process and get road improvements on it? Many of the road improvements, the offsite improvements that we've done through the city, for example, down in Central Pike, by working with a developer down there, that's $30 million of contributions that they'll make through right of way and direct money contributions into improving those things. So sometimes just letting it go at the minimum rights, we lose out on a lot of those things. It's really a balancing act. And This is, while mayor of the city is my first night to serve on the planning commission up here. I know it's, some of these people have volunteered to do this for years to try to weigh these things on it. It's a difficult decision. Do you just let something go? Do you pass, especially on things that are sitting on the edge of the city? Because if it's an annexation question, you can say no to that, but by right, they have the right to develop something outside the city. And the question up here that's always being weighed is by bringing it inside the city, do the benefits of bringing it inside offset the additional density of letting it go out there? And that's always the question that's being weighed up here. But to answer your question is, can you just stop everything?
If the consequences of the project, they'll harm the citizens, you would think you would
Yes.
say timeout, pause. That would be the right thing to do, which is what we're asking. But thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Please.
Mark Penland, 2261 Bender's Ferry Road, and I have an annexation question. And is this a mandate? Like, do we have to choose to go city, or can we stay county? Is it a consent process, or it's just unclear? Sorry to ask that question.
No. This applicant has chosen to request this of the city.
Yeah.
Not required.
Okay.
It's their decision to start their process here. And what we've expressed is that they have multiple options of submittal.
And as a property landowner at this location, can we opt out of city service, city jurisdiction, or do we not have that ability?
If you're already in the county right now, the only way that you get into the city would be to come and
Consenting.
request it. No, you'd have to come and apply and pay a fee.
Okay.
You would eventually come before this body as a request for annexation, plan of services, depending upon your property, possibly a land use plan amendment. I don't know, but yes, sir, you would have to make application, pay a fee in order to do so, and then come before this body where we could approve or deny your request.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Same process for you if you were to do that within your own individual property.
All right.
Yes, sir.
And then you all may be going into this, but next steps and timing, is that coming up, or do we
That's
just?
what I think I said earlier. This is a recommendation item back to the Mount Juliet City Commission. Its first reading would be May 8th, if I'm not mistaken. So the first reading would be May 8th, to where it would go upon your elected officials, two of which lie within this body tonight. And they would ultimately make the final decision. And it goes before the Board of Commissioners, whether or not this body gives it a positive or negative recommendation. So even if we give it a negative recommendation, it does still move forward to the Board of Commissioners, where it will ultimately be decided at that point. Should they approve it, the next time we see it will be a preliminary plat, I believe, or final master. Next time this body would see it would be final master development plan. Oftentimes these days, the final master development plan lands on our consent agenda because it's traditionally within direct compliance of what we saw at this point, which is preliminary master development plan.
All right. Thank
Hope
you.
that helps.
It
It's a lot.
does. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
John Mowbray, 1718 Burton Road. I wanted to commend everybody. You've made some great comments, especially regarding infrastructure. I would normally get on my soapbox and say the same thing, but you've done a fantastic job driving that point home. And I don't see how everybody here can understand that, the criticalness of having the infrastructure ahead of time. Listening to the comments, there seems to be a lot of people that have made statements that if you don't approve these subdivisions, that we're going to be sued. My response to that is lawyer up and fight it, because it's your job to defend the residents of Mount Juliet. Fight it however you need to. Another comment as far as how to pay for the widening of Lebanon Road, make the land developers pay for it before they build the subdivisions. They're the ones that are profiting from it, not Mount Juliet, not the residents of Mount Juliet. The land developers are. So make them incur the costs instead of the city of Mount Juliet and the taxpayers incurring those costs, or the Tennessee taxpayers. That would be fair. Instead of them profiting from it, making millions of dollars, and then the Tennessee and city taxpayers having to pay for schools and roads and sewers and et cetera. It's not right. It's not right. The system is broken. And we're leaning on you guys and ladies to help us block this, because these 4 subdivisions will destroy Bender's Ferry and the entire area. Several people have made that very clear, and they've also made it clear that they're probably going to leave. And I know people that are going to leave as well because of all the development, and that's counterproductive. It is sad, because we've been here decades. I've been here 20 years, and we're thinking about moving too because of this, because the traffic is just ridiculous. It's not livable. So I urge you to think outside the box and come up with another method to fight these property developers, because they're destroying our city, or they have destroyed it. All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any further citizen comments? Wonderful. Thank you guys for all of your input. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I look at the clock. I got the benefit of seeing that from my seat right here, and we're 9:05 for a meeting that started 6:30. So you guys have been awesome. Thank you for your participation. It means a lot, especially, we seem so far ago, but as you get so little time that we would conduct these meetings during the time of COVID. And look out there where you saw nobody, but you saw equally important projects come before this body, because, life didn't stop, work didn't stop, city management doesn't stop. And as it didn't. So it's pretty awesome to see everybody gathering back together and showing up like this. That's the reason why you stay at Mount Juliet. It's the reason why I've grown up here and been here my whole life as well. With that being said, looking for a motion in regards to this, or recommendation in regards to this item on our agenda. Please.
I'd like to add an amendment. States under Public Works, item 1, A, B, and C, in addition to item 2, Public Works, that those road improvements are done by the first CO. Also like to add that in addition to that, the completion of the intersection at Bender's Ferry and Lebanon Road also be completed by that development, Moss property, prior to the first CO.
Is that a motion?
Sorry, that's a
Is that
motion.
Just a amendment, a motion with an amendment as well?
Correct.
Very well. I'm going to second your motion, if I may add a few items up for discussion. I'd just like to make sure that all cul-de-sacs are in compliance. Bus test, I think, is what? Template, bus template. Just make sure that we can, that they pass such. A divided median to be added at the entrance to Bender's Ferry. I'm good with the still 2-lane egress movement, 1-lane ingress movement. The addition of availability of water to both the dog park and the community garden. To explore the option of additional parking to support the amenities that lie within the development. And then you actually have Commissioner Hefner's comments. So it's the other one right there. Those would be what I would request as the addition.
Would you add that there will be signage for no overnight parking? Did you say that?
Yes, please. And for any parking that is developed to support the amenities, signage to indicate no overnight parking lies within them.
Yep.
Is that okay?
You get the overnight
It gives you a
one.
motion and a second for a positive recommendation with those amendments and subject to staff comments as well.
Correct.
With that being said, all those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? That is a negative recommendation. Right. Please.
Please.
Yeah, that'd be great. We're going to conduct a 10-minute recess, allow people to leave the room and that wish to leave, and let us check bathroom. All right. Thank you. Thank everybody for your patience. Long meeting right there requires dedicated pauses. So with that, we will now bring our meeting back into order. Our last item up was item 4.3. Our next item up also falls underneath the recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners. It's item 4.4. It is to review the land use plan amendment for thoroughfare commercial and low-density residential to multifamily residential for the Bluffs at Cedar Creek located on Lebanon Road. Ms. Hamlin.
Staff does not recommend approval for the land use plan amendment.
Very well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barlow, anything you wish to add?
No comments at this time.
Very well. Questions or comments from the commission? Seeing no questions or comments at this time, let's go ahead and ask for representation to this project. Name and address for the record. We are talking about the land use plan amendment and not the preliminary master development plan.
Nathan Quinn, 402 B&A Drive. Here representing the developer. We're excited about this plan. The reason we're requesting the land use change in this case is to develop the Bluffs at Cedar Creek. We think it's a great plan. If you've seen the overview, you see a lot of green, and the intent behind our plan here is to really use this to support the future commercial along Lebanon Road and to provide that transitional zoning from there back to the adjacent properties to the north of this one. And we've done that by transitioning from the townhomes you see on the plan to the lower density villa units in the rear of the site. So we have 170 units total. 22 of those are the villas in the rear of the site, and 148 are all rear loaded townhomes with 2-car garages. And the main goal here was to make this feel more like a private, secluded community and really take advantage of that rear loaded towns instead of having a main street running in front of all the homes. So you enter on asphalt and you exit on asphalt no matter which way you come in. We decided to take out that central street you typically see and turn that into a 10-foot wide pedestrian pathway that ties this long linear park throughout the whole community and gives people a private, safe place for their kids, their dogs, their families to play and really take advantage of the natural beauty that we're afforded here on the Bluffs and the greenway system that Public Works is tied together throughout the city. This would add that section along the Bluffs here. So as that develops out, not only the residents, but the future or the citizens of Mount Juliet can enjoy that as well. And besides all those things, we are overparked in this community. The minimum requirement's 2 per unit, and we're at 674 parking spots. And where you see the units that don't have the full 22-foot driveway, we did that to support that linear park that you see, and we didn't want to bottleneck that. So we chose to concede the driveway on those and try to reinforce with surface parking as much as possible. And I'm here with Joe Haddix from Civil Site, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the commission? Seeing no questions or comments, I'd like to ask for a recommendation. Let me call for citizen comments. Any citizens wishing to make comment on this item, welcome, encouraged to do so. Please come to the microphone, name and address for the record. Seeing no citizen comments this time, I'd like to ask for a recommendation in regards to this item on our agenda. Staff just give it a. So motion and a second. Although that's a motion and a second for a negative recommendation, correct? All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? That is a negative recommendation.
That's a vote. It's a vote.
Oh,
It's a denial.
so that's actually a denial.
It's a denial.
Oh, okay. It
Can be
move
heard at
forward.
BOC, correct.
So we'll go ahead and hear 4.5, which would be the preliminary plat, correct? Just in case it does get sponsored to move forward?
I would
Is
not.
that correct?
You can or can't. You can wait until it comes back. If you want to speed it along, you can go ahead and do it now, but otherwise, pass it on.
Did we recall that vote and go through the denial because it was a recommendation that was voted on, not a denial?
It's going to be treated the same way.
Okay.
Okay. The, should we make that request to the applicant and see whether or not the applicant would like to proceed forward with that or request a deferral on that? I guess what would be the proper procedure with this
Well,
change?
the land use plan just got denied, so they can't move forward with their project. If you're seeking to give them
Okay, so,
feedback,
but if a commissioner supported it
it would,
to the BOC,
it would
the
need to come back
BOC,
to our
but then it would
planning.
have to come back for us as
Correct.
approved to the BOC. Mayor?
I don't know if the question was when reconsider the vote, perhaps change it for a positive recommendation so we could go ahead and hear it? Okay.
We voted on a recommendation, not a denial. So I just wanted to clarify that.
That, so we don't take action on 4.5? Or should they see whether or not they want to,
It would be,
so we're in uncharted territory.
the better way is let it go up to the BOC, and if it's approved, the land use, then bring it back here. Rather than approving it conditioned upon whatever the BOC does.
Do I need to defer that, or does the applicant need to defer it as, defer the preliminary plat, I guess?
They need to defer.
Would the applicant request deferral
the PMDP.
of the PMDP? I guess, may I defer this item?
You can move to defer it.
I can move to defer it? Is that okay?
Well, I was going to ask
Give input?
if if we do not hear this, is this going to be a situation where the PMDB gets adopted by us not taking action?
That's either needs to be deferred or act on it.
So if we defer it though, this isn't going to get approved by whatever the time limit is on this we have to hear it in.
No.
Okay.
So
I'll make a motion to defer.
it's a motion to defer
4.5.
with a second. And the motion to defer as regards to, let me table that, or let me put that item up on the table. So the next item up on the agenda is 4.5, which is review the preliminary master development plan PUD, including a rezone from RS40, CRC, and CG to RM8 PUD for the Bluffs at Cedar Creek located on Lebanon Road. And I have a motion from Commissioner Rast, a second from Commissioner Bullock for a deferral. All those in favor? Do we need to ask Mr. Marchetti?
Could we make the deferral contingent upon further action of the BOC? Would that be agreeable?
Yeah, this is uncharted territory with the change on this one, so my apologies for not knowing the course of action. Would it be appropriate to include within our motion to defer, to include a tie-in back to the land use plan amendment?
That would be helpful and instructive.
Yeah, good, good. So,
I would rephrase that, motion to defer until further action on the land use amendment.
by the
By the
POC.
BOC.
It's motion. It's your second, Carrie. Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? That item is deferred. Next item up on our agenda is item 5.1. This is also a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners. It's to review the zoning ordinance amendment 3-106 to establish regulations for mobile food vendors who wish to operate in residential and industrial zone districts within the city of Mount Juliet. Ms. Hamlin.
I feel like I can only hear myself. So we currently allow or regulate food trucks in a commercial setting during a temporary event. So for instance, going out of business, 4th of July, those type of events. And Commissioner Hefner had approached me about allowing these in residential and industrial locations. And we just did a quick highlight because I know it's a long read. So in our staff report, it goes over what the prime changes are for this amendment to the zoning ordinance. So we would allow up to 2 food trucks or canteen trucks permitted in residential areas at amenity centers, provided that restroom facilities are available from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. The same for industrial zoned locations, but we didn't put that time limitation because some of those are open 24 hours a day. And specifically in our industrial areas along Golden Bear, there just are no restaurants open yet for those individuals to patron during later hours or have to venture out to possibly 109 or Mount Juliet Road if they can make it back. A lot of those guys only have 30-minute lunch. I would like for you guys to be open to maybe amending that once Golden Bear got more established, so we wouldn't take, money from those businesses along Golden Bear. This would also allow provision for an operation of ice cream trucks within any residential or industrial district in the city between 11 a.m. and sunset, and also establishing fees of $300 a day, $1,200 for a 6-month permit, or $2,000 a year, like an annual permit. Those individuals would still be responsible for seeking that permit from us, but they would have their permit fees paid for the year or for a 6-month time period. That's the gist, and I think you
waived and waived, which is our current ordinance. And waived for any businesses that
correct.
are
Much
licensed
like
already.
ML Rose has a food truck, and they currently have a business license in the city of Mount Juliet, so we would not require them, which is our current practice for food trucks. They would not be required a permit because they have an outstanding business license with us currently.
So businesses that operate outside the city limits of Mount Juliet, they would have to apply for a permit.
Correct. They didn't have a city business license.
They don't, okay. And what constitutes, so what are we saying is a food truck? I mean, what?
So there's definitions in here, and we've added those. It's on, I believe, the second page. There's
is.
different.
All in yellow.
Food truck means a vehicle from which edible food products are cooked, prepared, or assembled with the intent to sell such items to the general public, provided further that food trucks may also sell other edible food products and beverages that have been prepared, assembled elsewhere. Food truck operators may market their products to the public via advertising, including social media. A canteen truck, we also have that definition in here, which is a vehicle that operates to provide food service to workers at locations where access to such services is otherwise unavailable or impractical, from which the operator sells food and beverages that require no on-site preparation. So they may be already assembled, much like I think ML Rose does the same thing. They make them on-site and then bring them out.
So if I own a business in Mount Juliet and I can bring a bag of food, like a heated bag of food that I prepared at my business, if I'm on Mount Juliet Road and I own a business on Mount Juliet Road, and I could put food in a car or a vehicle and drive it out to these events and sell.
You could. So mobile food service vehicle, it would have to be, is a food truck, canteen truck, or ice cream truck, includes any portable unit that is attached to a motorized vehicle or intended for use in the operation of a food truck, canteen truck, or, so we have that mobile food service vehicle in there as well.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Yes,
Please,
sir.
please.
A trailer that's pulled by a truck that serves food.
That would
Is
be
that
considered,
covered?
yes, sir. A
It is.
mobile food service vendor.
Okay.
I got several comments or additions to this. I really like it. I'm going to go on and say that. A couple of the things that just trying to be, my thoughts just went crazy as I started reading this one right here. Maybe too much diners, dives, and drive-ins, or carnival food, or whatever it is, the foodie show that we watch until late at night at my house. I don't know. But anyway, so item number 1 on the summary, up to 2 food trucks, canteen trucks permitted in residential areas at the amenity center. Provided restroom facilities are available. My personal opinion, I think 10 is a little bit late. I would back that back down to maybe 8 or 9. Most of our amenity centers do have houses directly adjacent to them. Just a suggestion right there as you guys look at this.
Well, we actually had that in there originally, but in the summertime, it stays daylight a little bit later than 8 o'clock. So that's why we did choose to bump it up to 10 o'clock. Would you be okay with 9 o'clock?
I like 9. Okay. Yeah. Just gives you a barrier to that, because most of our smaller communities, you got younger kids. I'm going to eventually give you something that's going to tie into the reason and rationale to that in just a second. What happens if because we do have several subdivisions that lie within the city that aren't lucky enough to have an amenity center. And
They would not be permitted to have a food truck because we would not allow them to be parked in the right of way.
Yeah, like Carriage Trail, there's many neighborhoods that can't do that. So just saying on that one right there that wish that the other guys out there could also have it. I would love to see, personally as well, we do residential and then we just do industrial zoning. Neither of which are really close to my place as far as those go. And I love a lot of these things out there. They're really cool stuff, give you pretty diverse menus. Possibility of looking at maybe your CG or your CIs, something like that.
They're currently allowed under a temporary event. Sorry, I'm eating a pretzel.
Are they?
Mm-hmm. They're already allowed in commercial with a temporary event permit.
The other ones, and the reason why I'm saying some of this, lots of these, because some of these stores that put those bright white LEDs that blind you from 10 miles away, they're like landing lights for a runway. A lot of the really cool trucks also have lights and speakers and music associated with them. And we do nothing at all to address those. And we're going to stick them right in the middle of a subdivision.
I think we did address that in here, especially the
You did?
noise.
Okay. Because the lighting particular, it'd be cool to put it into your neighborhood, but then what if you got one with 2 metal halide spotlights on the side of it and you're the cat next door to them? Probably not going to go very well in those instances there. So just a thought on that.
We do address the noise.
But maybe lighting as well.
Okay.
Especially if we are, because you can't just do 9 p.m. to summer hours. We're going to do 9 p.m. when it's going to get dark at 4 o'clock. 4:30 frustrates me. Maybe they stop changing time and then that'll be better. But frankly, there's a good stretch of our year that 4:30 it's dark. So you got 5 hours right there to where you can pop those metal halides and let it rip.
1 hour past dusk.
Well, then that
I
puts
would
you to
just
10 or
rather
11.
have
Yeah.
a time
Okay.
because then
Then you can't argue.
Yeah.
it.
then they're going to interpret dusk.
Wintertime when it's
Yeah.
on.
I don't see, and correct me if I'm wrong, but is there anything in here that addresses it so that it can't be at the same location longer than X amount of days?
We do not. We originally had a 12 truck limit
Okay.
per truck, but we do not per year, per
I
calendar
guess-
year, but that was removed.
I would like to see that you can't just, because if not, I can tell you what, that the commercial rent here in Mount Juliet, $2,000 a year would be golden. I'm going to leave here if y'all adopt this and I'm buying me a trailer because I got a good friend with a business license and I'm going to put a trailer on an industrial property and I'm going to sell food because $2,000 a year is a heck of a deal versus most of our restaurants here paying $8,000 plus per month.
So in the commercial setting, we only allow 8 events per business per year. So in the industrial section and then in the residential section, you want a limit on how many permits per year?
I don't know about that. I just don't want to, I can see the opportunity of manipulation within this.
And we
I mean,
definitely don't
immediately
want to
my mind
undermine
raced to
our
that,
current
and I'm like,
businesses.
hey, look, Joe owns this, so technically I'm on Joe's here. Well, Tom owns this one next door. Bob owns this, and I can just literally move a few feet for $2,000 a year, but maintain same location, and people are consistent to location. That I kind of feel like you need to make sure that we've got some kind of teeth in here that prohibits somebody from parking that thing there. I mean, granted, you got your hours of operation, so I close it down. Okay?
No, they can't park it overnight per
Yeah.
this, but they could come back the next day.
But if I'm industrial, I back it to a parking place and take off.
Right. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. They can't park it overnight, but they could definitely come back the next day.
I know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So do you guys want to suggest a permit limit?
Like consecutive days.
I would say limit.
Yeah, no,
Because I mean, I know how hard it is to start a business and how hard it is to
Yeah.
pay rent every single month. I do like the industrial component working in that, being in that from that world. Those people come back 1 minute late, they're getting fired, right? So it's a godsend to have that kind of that amenity in that industrial park. But at the same time, I hear the small businesses basically, I went through, got my license. I went and I got the health department coming by. I got my grease trap. I got all this stuff, and I spent all this money. And here comes a truck from Davidson County that's going to come up here for $300 and, take my business. Right. So I would like to see some kind of a limitation on that as far as how many permits they can pull, or maybe, I know we're saying special events, right? So what are those events? I know I see Christmas tree. I see some other stuff in here.
So a temporary event is limited to 8 per year, I believe. And it's for going out of business, a grand opening, 4th of July, Memorial Day. We've allowed the Shop Late, specifically the Basement Marketplace and Sisters Whimsy. They get food trucks on their Shop Thursday, Shop
Yeah,
Late
I mean,
events.
we do too. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
So that for commercial area, it's 8
8.
events per business per year.
And here's another quick thought too. Most of our restaurants right now, they love dinner. I mean, look at our restaurants. Dinner is bumping everywhere you go. Go to the same restaurant at lunch, and you are quick in and quick out. So you might even consider within this, and I'm not even marking this. I'll give you guys my notes when I'm done here. But you might even consider this during Monday through Friday, starting this thing like 4 p.m. and help the guys that have made that financial commitment to Mount Juliet to make sure that we're going to hurt them. We will get them at dinner, but at least don't take away what they're getting from a lunch crowd, because our lunches here, until we get more corporate relocation, we get more business. I know, but we got, and it's a double-edged sword, because you got the Amazon, you got the FedEx, you got the up there where it makes perfect sense. But if you get in here to Mount Juliet during that lunchtime, really into the core of the city limits, to your corner pubs and even to an extent your Jonathan's, your ML Rose, as we know, O'Charlie's went down. I mean, and O'Charlie's had the best lunch deal out there as far as pricing goes. So just a consideration that you might go Monday through Friday and preserve these guys that have the rents here. Retail in itself is inherently, when you have real estate investment right now, retail is inherently challenging to drive people. And so just careful not to drive them away from the restaurants that have chosen to make a larger financial investment in the city limits. I
That's
think is
always
equally
been
important.
my biggest concern with food trucks.
And then I got
is
2 more, and
this
then I
very
promise
same
I'll
thing.
be quiet. I'm
Sure.
telling you, my mind just started racing on this thing. I've gone to some pretty cool events, and not that you guys got to do this, probably going to get shunned up here for this, but I went to a event and they had a really awesome margarita truck. Just saying, whether or not you're going to open it up to alcohol as
It's
well.
addressed in here.
Yeah. So they do complement one another in certain instances out there. And there are some really, really neat concepts and trucks that come around that also include that. So just food for thought. And then my final one is just, to me, when they apply for a permit, they should also document their appropriate health permit.
That's in here also.
That is? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just making sure they do that so that we know that at least if we're permitting this, we're kind of opening the gates for it, that we at least know that they have.
They have to
been-
provide a copy to us.
Been inspected, yeah. And make sure that we're not going to feed E. coli to anybody.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
No,
I told you my mind started racing on
No,
this one.
good feedback. I appreciate that. This was a starting point. I knew there was going to be some modifications to it, but I wanted to get something in front of everybody tonight to at least give an opportunity to weigh in on this. So I do appreciate everybody's comments. I don't know if it would be worth having a separate license for industrial versus residential to maybe restrict. I don't know. There might be an opportunity for us to kind of think through that a little bit. If we don't want overnights or
Right. And then we can
extended-
also, like
Yeah.
Luke suggested, put more restrictions on the residential, so they would be less likely to undermine our current businesses. That's always been my biggest problem with food
Yeah, I get
trucks.
my thought on the residential was geared towards special events. I know Jackson Hills, throughout the summer, they have, they have yard sales, that it's publicized events for that community. It's private property. So that's where my mind was at.
This just doesn't address that because we took those limitations off.
Right. So we can revisit that to prevent someone from just a food truck pulling into to an HOA or a neighborhood and opening their doors for business. We can revisit that and look at maybe tightening that up a little bit to restrict that.
Please.
Yeah, this has always been a fun subject to take on, but I would like to see these things like the hour set, the frequency, even the rates, instead of captured in the ordinance. I'd like those to be perhaps set in a separate resolution that the ordinance references, so they can be changed quickly. Because what I fear is we're going to take a stab at it, put in the work and get everything as close as we can to being right. But I'd like to be able to change it as quickly as possible if we need to adjust things. We're doing an ordinance. It's going to be a 2-week delay between it. It's public notice, first vote, second vote. You're almost a month in it before you need to do something. If we create some unforeseen circumstances on it, one of the big challenges in the past that I've always been concerned about is taking that business from our existing business. This is in the sense that sales tax revenues that generated off this is a funder for the school. I don't know whether that we're talking about $1,000 a year or $50,000 a year. I don't know how you really quantify how much that is. So there's the protecting the revenue source to the school system, concerns about our current staffing, if we've got enough to handle this procedures we go through it. Just some notes on here I've got, like canteen truck means. It says otherwise unavailable or impractical. It's where it's saying under definitions, access to such services otherwise unavailable or impractical. But that, to me, like the point about Golden Bear, there's nothing out there for that thing. But soon that's potentially going to change and it will become available and practical for people to do it. So that's why I would like it to be very easily to make those changes. Commentary, fixed location. I take this as like someplace they would go to restock.
Correct.
I
know sometimes with the Olo World, you have what they're going to is kind of like these little factory kitchens that cooks things for a number of vendors. They label them out there and then they just go do delivery. One thing I do like about the Olo World is they're capturing a lot of those taxes in place. And I assume, I'm sorry, I'm using an acronym, online ordering, Olo, but where people are doing those are getting captured. Food trucks, it talks about some of the stuff in here, and it says other. I wrote down a thing here. Will they be able to serve other items? I know alcohol come up, but cigarettes, collector's mugs that go along with the Bat Burger, whatever, special, come back and get a
Ordinance
free
says
refill.
Edible products. So
So,
maybe that needs
that
to be
covers-
changed to not include edibles.
Okay. Edibles.
No edibles.
Boy, that word's taking on additional meaning over the last few years. Also, we're referencing section 3, 106, part 7. I didn't look that up. I was too lazy.
Where do we see this?
This is on about the 4th page. It's all by itself under part 2. Any mobile food vehicle operating under this provision shall meet the requirements of section 3, 106, part 7 in order to operate in residential and industrial zones, districts.
That's the new section,
Got it.
which does need to be numbered. So thanks for calling that out.
And then under residential, it talks about an amenity center. Is amenity center defined somewhere else in this ordinance? I assume it's defined in our code somewhere.
I think it is. It might say improved property. Let's see.
Well, it says residential neighborhood, the residency zone districts, food trucks may operate at the amenity center.
It was really meant for parking, and I added and somehow got tied to an amenity center, but my main concern was public safety and not wanting these food trucks parked on the
Operating in
street.
Jimmy's driveway.
Correct. So if a subdivision doesn't have an amenity center, but they have a park with dedicated parking on the private property, then that satisfies my concern of them not parking on the street and parking in a designated parking area. Whether there's amenity center there or not was what I was trying to get to.
And then 2 words over, it says public restroom. I assume we mean a fixed public restroom, and you can't just bring in portables and leave them at the amenity center.
Correct.
You cannot judge public behavior by what I would or wouldn't do.
I do.
And then ice cream trucks. I didn't catch it if it's in here, but we're limiting the ice cream trucks to just roads in front of residential developments,
Residential and industrial.
meaning they could not go and get out on Mount Juliet Road or something.
Correct.
Okay. Hey, somebody might
They
try.
may try.
And then ice cream trucks, are we going to allow those all year? Somebody wants ice cream in the winter, we got it.
That's true. Jeremiah's is busy all the time.
And then under Part D, it says no mobile food service vehicle will operate in the city without a mobile food vendor permit. But another part, we're saying that you can operate in the parks. Do you have to get the permit first before you'd be allowed to operate in the park if this passes?
The parks is already controlled by the parks director. So they are in charge of collecting their own fees.
But this isn't going to supersede that, meaning they would have to get a
No,
permit.
that's why we included the verbiage that it's subject to the parks director. I think they do a lot of that for fundraising in the park. So yeah, it would definitely be up to Rocky.
And I would like to see, it's kind of a balance here with the fees. We've got to justify perhaps trying to cover the cost of an additional body or team or what, the food truck squad or whatever. We've got to balance that with what's practical too. But I know Commissioner Hefner says, if you've got a business here, you should be able to operate. They're already contributing into this. But I'd like to see like the fee system, maybe like a tiered system. Like if you have a business license in Mount Juliet, you're going to be paying sales tax to the city. You're going to be paying sales tax to the county, that we're not losing that thing. And I like what Chairman Winchester's suggestion too about trying to avoid that conflict with the lunch crowd. So it's my thoughts in a nutshell.
Please. All right, so I know we want to kind of get the ball rolling on the food trucks, but I'd be totally okay. Like the industrial sector, even when Golden Bear is developed, the Under Armours and the Sivas and the Amazons of the world don't want those people leaving their premises. They don't, no matter what. So I mean, I'd be totally okay today walking out of here saying industrial areas with businesses that currently have a business license in the city, and then we capture sales tax. Basically, we just capture the sales, right? So I know we want to continue discussion, we're going residential and talking with other things, but we need it in the industrial areas as far as what open up these industrial places. So I think we go industrial right away with businesses that are currently in the city. And then I think the businesses that are in the city, that's why I asked about the food trucks and what defines a food truck. They get creative on how to figure out how to get out there to the industrial, because that way they can make money instead of DoorDash, whatever it is. They could put their truck out there in the industrial areas. We can get it rolling. And then we could say, and then people from residences right now, we have food trucks. They can go out to the industrial area and pick up their sandwich or whatever. That's if they live close to it. I'd be totally okay with that today. And then continue the conversation on everything else.
I'm not sure I understand. Are you saying only allow it in industrial?
Today. I mean, continue the conversation on everything else. I'm saying we were talking about starting the conversation on everything today. We knew that we had questions coming away with it, but to continue the conversation, I'm saying that there's a lot of questions that need to be answered on the residential side, as far as how we're going to charge them and how many days they can stay and how many. So there's a lot of things we still got to define on the residential side that I think we could still get to and still clean up and still get it approved on the residential side. But walking out of here today, I don't see why we can't move forward industrial and then continue the conversation on the residential side after we clear up those questions we have.
How would we split that apart? How do we split it?
We would just remove anywhere that it says residential. We just remove that.
It goes to the BOC, correct?
It does.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's a recommendation?
This is a recommendation. Yes, sir.
So,
So do I have to state the recommendation? Or
yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So
I wanted to, yeah, I just, no.
So don't make a motion. Okay.
Yeah, no, I want to address that. I understand the concern about competitiveness and maybe taking away from local businesses. To me, this kind of, you eat at home, grocery stores are not competitors to restaurants. If you eat at home, you go to the grocery store, you come home, you cook it, you eat it. We're not competing with the restaurants. If you want to go out to eat, you go out to eat, you make that decision. To me, having two food trucks maximum in a neighborhood on private property, which by the way are controlled mainly by HOAs. I don't think there's any subdivisions that fall under this these restrictions that doesn't have an HOA. I think it's kind of in the middle of those two. If we need to tie it to a special event, so they're not coming into the neighborhoods, and on a whim, happy to add back the language that we tie it to a special event in a neighborhood. But if I live in Kelsey Glen or Jackson Hills, and there's a yard sale event or 4th of July event, I want as a citizen or resident of that community to be able to walk around the yard sales and go and grab something to eat at one of two food trucks. I've talked to a couple of restaurant businesses, and I asked them, honestly, I said, look, do you view food trucks as competition to your business? And one of them actually laughed. He says, the day I start viewing food trucks as competition to my business, I need to step up my game. And I'd like his attitude, actually, because again, it depends on the scenario. And in this scenario, we're talking about on private property tied to an event where they want to bring two food trucks maximum. I don't see an issue with it. I don't see a challenge with it. I don't see it as a major threat to local businesses. And local businesses have the option to get a food truck and join in the party, so to speak. So
would you feel more comfortable with your original regulation of the two food trucks, 12 events per year?
That's fine. Yeah, we can
Do
do
you
that.
guys feel more comfortable with 12 times a year they could have two food trucks? So that's once a month they could have two food trucks? Or
I'm
no?
okay with it, just with Chairman Winchester brought up a lot of concerns of grayness that I would like to see buttoned up prior to, I'm okay with that, right? But I think that there's some questions that are kind of looming out there that somebody's going to figure out how to get over on us on some of this stuff. That's all. I'm okay with it. I'm not against it. I'm just against the way that it's written right now with not having answers to some of the questions that Chairman Winchester brought up.
Chairman Winchester, what are your other outstanding questions? I think I answered the liquor portion that's addressed in here.
I'm gonna get associated with that now, aren't I? Don't be guilty by my comments.
When I visit the margarita truck when I leave here
I know.
tonight, I'm gonna thank
It
you.
was super. Granted, this was at a wedding, but all right, let's do this. Please, Commissioner Sushi.
Food truck. Really?
We don't have a lot right now because they're so regulated. They're only allowed at commercial temporary events. I will tell you that when we were under a state of emergency, the planning department was also in a state of emergency because we had 5 million food trucks inundate us when they were allowed in residential districts during that short amount of time. I probably had a stack of permits this thick for the short amount of time that we were under state of emergency for COVID. So we will get overrun if we do not regulate these.
Okay, I understand
I
that.
promise you that.
But most food trucks are at events. Most of food trucks. you see them at
Currently, they're
events.
only at events.
Right. Now, in Davidson County, I think the vendors, they have barred the vendors from downtown.
I believe Lebanon has also. I could be wrong. So
So-
other communities have banned them as well.
Yeah, we're just allowing these in neighborhoods and
Right.
industrial, so
Okay.
they wouldn't be running around downtown
I
parking
agree.
anywhere. It'd just be in neighborhoods that have private parking.
Okay, okay. Most food trucks I see are in events or in different areas in town. You see food trucks sitting at a facility. It's not a food place, but it could be a tire place or it could
No,
be
that's not-
something similar to that.
Yeah, that's not. what
That's
this
not
is.
allowed.
No.
Okay,
No, this is specifically neighborhoods that have dedicated parking, whether it's for a park, dog park, activity center, but they have to have so not every neighborhood actually even qualifies for this.
Yeah.
There's just your large subdivisions that have that amenity center or dog park or whatever it might be where they would park. Again, I don't want to parking in the street, but it's restrictive even within subdivisions in City of Mount Juliet.
Yeah.
So it's not every subdivision. It's Clearview Estates is not going to be able to have food trucks and many others. So.
That's what I was gonna say is, I'm not gonna mention any names, so I don't get any of them in trouble, but I'm aware of a neighborhood within the county that during the summer, every Tuesday, there's a different food truck organized by the HOA.
In the county?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's great. I eat at it almost every Tuesday as it gets warm.
I live in the city limits of Lebanon and I'm on next door. So I see a lot of residents that are in the county and are in Lebanon. You're not allowed to, but very
In the county, you
closely in the county.
Yeah. Yeah, you
They
can
do
come
it.
into my
It's not
neighborhood
regulated.
And set up on
Mhm.
my street right there if you really
And it
wanted
is,
to.
it's like every Tuesday is this,
Yeah.
the grilled
So
cheesery
Clearview.
or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could.
Yeah. I do have another
So
question.
let's,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say, let's call for citizen comments on this. Any citizen wishing to make comment? Seeing none? Good. At least we got that formality out of the way. So we can do that. One of the things I was gonna suggest is, this is a recommendation item. So I guess what I'd like to make a recommendation or a motion for a positive recommendation. Not with amendments, but I'm going to call them suggestions / thinking points.
Okay.
So I'm going to open with mine. And I hope that I get additional suggestions. Limitation of hours, possibly to 9 p.m. as well. Possibly, I'm going to just say 3 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday, and whatever 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. on
Monday through Friday.
Saturday. Yeah, just limit the lunch during the week round.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, but on a Saturday or Sunday, go 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little bit different market then. I would really look at your fees. I think 2,000, I would probably just remove the annual permit and just 300 a day or $1,200 a month. Just get rid of the year permit. I know that requires staff better, but if you do the math on that, that gives us the food truck patrol person that we may need to hire to make sure it's all done properly. $1,200 a month times, 10, 20 food trucks, all of a sudden equates to a lot of money.
Was that 1,200 for 6 months?
It was 1,200 for 6 months.
Oh,
I
I thought it said 1,200 a month.
But we can sure keep it at month.
There you go.
Not
I
married to
really
the
like
price.
300 a day or $1,200 a month.
We're going to keep it.
Yeah, I mean, that seems attractive and fair. I would say some type of limitation on can't be at same location longer than X, whatever that should be. Addition of, we address the noise, but addition of comments to address lighting and reduction of such. And I think that you've got to permit the health permit must be presented, a copy must be presented to the city. So that is my motion.
I actually can I add to your motion,
Please.
even though I don't make motions. Add definition for amenity center,
A definition for an amenity center.
prohibit porta johns specifically.
You want to second it?
I can add to.
No, he wants to add.
I want to add to that.
Okay, please.
I want to take, you have that commercial and industrial. I don't want to limit the industrial to 3 p.m. to 9. They need lunch service in the industrial area.
I'd be good with
We would
that.
only do that in residential.
Right. That's why I'm just want to be clear. The industrial is not 3 p.m.
Okay.
Be okay with
It's 10 a.m. to, or whenever. We have no
Yeah.
limitation on that one. And then prohibit porta johns specifically.
Prohibition of porta johns.
And also the businesses that are in the city limits, we're just going to track their revenue as normal, right? And then they give their sales tax as they normally would. We're not going to make them pay for a
Right.
truck.
License.
So
Yeah.
businesses need to go put a truck out there,
Yeah,
right?
they have to report their sales.
Yeah, I was just saying, that's what I'm saying. All right.
And I think they might have to get something from the state, like a sign off. I was talking to Brent. What were you saying? What, besides a health certificate, what else do they got to have?
So with a food truck, I would have to go out there. I'd have to go out there and inspect it. A food truck is no different than a restaurant. They still have to abide by the standards of their equipment being maintained, up to date, and serviced. So prior to them actually being able to cook out, I'd need to go out there and do a full inspection on their facility, their truck itself.
So the addition of fire marshal and or his or her signs,
And he will already have a check
Okay.
off on our permits.
that'd be great.
So that's more
there's-
work for him, sorry.
There's another addition to my motion.
It's awesome.
I've got more of a question before we add to it, but maybe a consideration for the zoning. Could you employ zoning industrial areas and allow certain regs for that particular type of zoning versus Providence?
I think we're just saying an industrial
Same
zone.
thing. Okay.
Yeah, so it'd have to be,
Okay.
that is tied to a zoning by saying
Okay,
industrial.
okay.
Mayor Manis, did you have a couple things?
Yeah, I would, the big one I would take away is just trying to set the variables in a resolution so that we can quickly adjust as need to or anything else.
Certainly agree to a mechanism to allow the Board of Commissioners to adjust the resolution should it be deemed without it having to be brought before the Planning Commission.
I'll work with Gino on an expedited way to make those changes.
Did I capture And I know that Mayor had an adjustment to 3-106. Was that right?
He
It's
just
just a
wondered what it
typo
was
and error.
referencing to.
Okay.
And it's the new section.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
thought
the
they was
section.
actually calling out some other piece of city code.
Okay. I hope you caught that. So I tried to talk
I
into
have
the
a lot of
microphone. That
notes.
is my motion for positive recommendation with those suggestions. Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising their hand.
Aye.
Against, abstentions. So positively recommended.
Makes me hungry.
All right, next item up on our agenda is also a recommendation item back to the BOC. It's to review the zoning ordinance amendment 8-207.3 to remove minimum lot size for 55-plus communities for PUD overlay districts. Ms. Hamlin.
Thanks. In 2021, this body forwarded a positive recommendation for a minimum lot size requirement of 10,000 square feet per lot and an average lot size of 15,000 square feet onto the BOC, which it was ultimately adopted. So y'all have seen the past year any new residential development come in with those minimum lot sizes of 10,000 square feet. But since that time, we've had several interested developments tailored to the 55 plus communities. And these new regulations make it difficult to move forward with these proposals, as most 55 plus communities offer smaller lots that are fully maintained by the HOA and are highly amenitized. These developments offer ideal solutions for adults who are ready to relieve themselves of home maintenance, thus having larger yards negates this type of lifestyle. So Mayor Manis approached me a few weeks ago about looking at changing this ordinance to remove that regulation of the minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet for 55 plus communities. And this ordinance addresses that concern.
Very well. Mayor, would you like to speak to this as well?
Certainly, yeah. This is the 55 and over type communities are something that highly desirable for cities to be able to attract. One, there's minimal, if no burden on the school system introduced by these type of developments, and a lot of retirees there, which create favorable traffic flow in and out of the developments, as they do not as much as a normal subdivision adhere to the typical rush in, rush out round work schedule. So they work well with our existing infrastructure. So those are the couple of reasons why these things are, these type of communities are desirable to have. Had two, I know that I've looked at the city here, and it's just, you just tell them, say, well, that's nice, but it's not allowable in our city. But this, I'd hope to exclude this. This will just basically set us back on the 55 and older communities only, back to the situation we were at 2021 before the minimum lot size ordinance passed.
Questions or comments from the commission? Makes sense. Let's call for citizen comments. Any citizens around wishing to make comment? See no citizen comments at this time. No further discussion. Let's ask for a recommendation in regards to this item on our agenda. So, motion for a positive recommendation. It's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raise your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? That is a positive recommendation. Next item up on our agenda is also a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners. It's an ordinance amending Part B of the Unified Land Development Code of the City of Mount Juliet, Tennessee, known as the zoning ordinance by amending Section 8 Floodplain District Regulations to minimize danger to life and property due to flooding and to maintain eligibility for participation in the National Flood Insurance Program. This sounds like something from Mr. Barlow.
Sir,
All
it
right.
is. Yeah, and I actually forgot this was even on here tonight until I was like, oh, we have floodplain. So this is basically required. And Shorty is our certified floodplain administrator for the city now, and has been working with FEMA on this. And Shorty has done a lion's share of work on this. Rob Ely, who was our certified floodplain administrator, had already done a lot of work on this. And so came down, we've got some new stuff, some new maps. We have to adopt this. There's some changes It has to be adopted by May 9th. So we're in good shape on the schedule. We just need to get it on here. We've already had first reading of the Board of Commissioners at the March 27th meeting. Tonight and be final passage at the next BOC meeting Monday night. So it's pretty straightforward. Included some new stuff in here. But it's not too crazy. Shorty, any highlights on that? Any major changes?
The flood study was done for Stoner Creek.
Stoner Creek is the
We're
updated
waiting
watershed.
We're waiting for Cedar Creek, and you'll get another amendment.
Yes. Shorty said, for the record, I'll read it in. So this is for Stoner Creek watershed. We'll be getting those new maps. This is adopted. So it's the first time it's been adopted since what, 90s? 2000? Yeah, 2009. And so it's kind of a big deal that we got this updated. It's supposed to have been done for a few years now. So so this is one of those got to do it kind of a thing. And so kudos. I want to give a big shout out to Shorty and Rob and John. All did a lot of work on this. So I just kind of assembled it all together and got it here for y'all. So we are not only in favor of it, we got to do it.
Really need it.
Yeah.
Really need it. Questions or comments from the commission? Call for citizen comments. See no citizen comments. Like to ask for a motion or recommendation in regards to this item on the agenda. I'll make a motion for a positive recommendation. It's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against, abstentions. That's a positive recommendation. Next item up is all the campaign that we have been doing. You've noticed all the campaign signs and buttons and free stuff and fundraisers that we've been going through in order for this one moment that we have upon us right now. I would like to, next item up on our agenda is the election of the chairperson for the Mount Juliet Municipal and Regional Planning Commission for the continued calendar year of 2023 into 2024. With that being said, I'd like to open the floor for nominations to the chairperson for the Planning Commission.
I'd like the honor of nominating Luke Winchester for one more year.
Any additional nominations? I'll make a motion to cease nominations.
Second.
Thank you. It's a motion and a second to cease nominations. With that being said, we have a motion on the floor for Luke Winchester to be the chairperson for the Mount Juliet Municipal and Regional Planning Commission. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against, abstentions. Thank you, guys. I want to get away sometimes, and I love it at the same time right there. So, yeah, all of y'all know, it is. It is a unique opportunity to make a positive impact upon your community. And I've talked with several folks, and it's one of those things. You certainly don't make everybody happy. Certainly don't make everybody mad. But no, not everybody. That's what I said. I used the word everybody as I led into that. But I do appreciate your support, your commitment, and thank you guys. I really thank you all. Very grateful. With that being said, next item up on our agenda is item 6.2. It is to elect the vice chairperson for the Mount Juliet Regional Municipal Planning Commission for the continuation of 2023 into 2024. I would now like to open the floor for nominations for its vice chairperson. Please.
I'd make a motion that Commissioner Rast considered for a vice chairman position.
Got a nomination for Commissioner Rast. See no further nominations at this point. Make a motion to close nominations. It's a second on that. That being said, we have a motion on the floor to elect as its vice chairperson Commissioner David Rast to serve the completion of 2023 into 2024. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raise your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? You can vote for yourself.
I won't do it. I won't do it.
If you were in an election booth and you're running for office, you better vote for yourself. Yeah. Look, yeah. You don't have to admit it here. All right. Yeah. With this being said, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
I got a motion and a second somewhere. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. Aye. We are adjourned. Yeah.